Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium eSports coverage for the third race of Season 4 of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Rowdy Energy, the Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150 live from iRacing's virtual Michigan International Speedway in Brooklyn, Michigan. Chase Plank, the voice of Podium eSports, alongside Kenneth Bueno, Terry Radford down on pit road, and two very special guests joining us. First time we've had famous faces in the booth this evening, and we've got two of them tonight. You've heard NASCAR Hall of Famer Darrell Waltrip on our broadcast, and we are joined for the first time this evening on a Podium eSports show and a Monday Night Racing show by former NASCAR crew chief and race winner Gil Morton. So, Darrell, Gil, welcome to you both. Darrell, we'll come to you first. Super late models at Michigan. This place is a fun racetrack, but you take cars like these that are a little bit underpowered compared to their Cup Series counterparts, maybe not quite as quick. It could look a little bit more like Daytona or Talladega tonight.
It could. I think the draft is huge. These are long straightaways, a D-shaped front straightaway. I think, you can have a car that's good in the corner and keep up, or you can have a car that's really fast down the straightaway and keep up. So this track was always aggravating to me for that very reason. You try to get away from a guy and he'd catch you in a corner and you'd pull him down the straightaway. So I think tonight will be it's a combination of things. It's who's got a good car down the straightaway, and it's got who's got a good handling car. If you can have both, you might just end up in victory circle.
Now, Gil, you've been watching a lot of these races throughout the past few seasons on Podium eSports, and you've seen how some of the strategy plays out. How forward are you looking to this just to get a chance to try and play crew chief with these guys in real time as they make these calls that potentially get them to victory lane?
I tell you, these cars are going to be so equal tonight, but the thing is going to be driver input, because the cars are going to start off probably extremely loose. As the tires wear, drivers are going to have to try different lines to to decrease as much driver input as they can so they can keep the RPMs up. And as the race goes on, track position is going to mean so much that you're going to come down to possibly no tires or even 2 tires. But it's going to be very important that you keep that position because it's going to be tough to pass.
Worth remembering that with these super late models, these drivers will come off the right rear a little bit more than they would with the National Series touring car. So you're going to have to watch for that too. Maybe not so much like we see at Nashville Superspeedway, which we'll go to a little bit later this year, but still something to keep in mind as these drivers work their way through tonight's Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150. Kenneth Bueno, let's come to you. Let's talk about points. Let's talk about driver input because we've had 2 drivers put themselves into victory lane. David Schildhouse won the Season opener at Daytona 2 weeks ago, and Colin Fern went to victory last week when the Cup Series cars went to Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's been a miraculous first 2 races, I think, James, to say the least, because obviously first-time winners. Colin Fern has never been a winner in Monday Night Pro Racing history. Neither has David Schildhouse. So both of them going to victory lane means a lot for them and their playoff hopes. But take a look at that bubble. Playoff cutoff. You'll see a very familiar name. Kyle Busch, couple of points out from Will Rogers, Roger Carruth, James Bickford. Everybody, though, right now, James, after the first 2 rounds are pretty much tied together. And with this track here in Michigan, that means that this playoff grid will probably change dramatically after tonight.
We'll start to see a few changes in the point standings as we now take a closer look at this Michigan International Speedway and show you where in the world we are. Not terribly far away from Detroit, about an hour and a half to the west, and not terribly far away from the state capital of Lansing, but this is a big, fast racetrack. Maybe not quite as large as Daytona or Talladega, Kenneth, but you can carry speed off into these corners just the same.
You definitely can. And this track, obviously similar to the Auto Club Speedway in California, it's a very large D-shaped oval that opened back in 1968. And this track is bad fast. With these cars and pretty much any combo you bring here, you're set to go over at least 150 miles per hour, depending on the car. And with these super late models here in this race tonight, it means that they're going to be pretty much blazing in speed, probably in packs of 3, 4, maybe 5 wide racing on end. They're just going to be spread around this large track. You've got a lot of room to make.
2 miles, 3.2 kilometers. It's a D-oval, 18 degrees of banking in the corners, 12 degrees of banking on the front stretch, and 5 degrees of banking on the back stretch. Tonight's race analysis, we're going to go for 80 laps this evening, 160 miles, 256 kilometers. Drivers, as always, will have at least one faster pair. Tonight, it is just the one. 3 green white checkers as usual, 3 sets of tires in the pits, a fixed setup. Each car will have the same setup underneath the hood, and a 75% fuel tank, which may come into play if we get a long yellow flag. But Kenneth, as we've seen, more often than not, this race tends to be punctuated by a few yellow flags. So I'd be surprised if we had a significantly long green flag run throughout the course of tonight's race.
Yeah, there could be. We'll see long runs probably, but again, like I mentioned, pack racing, it's kind of going to be susceptible to a lot of yellows, a lot of drivers getting close to each other, maybe some drivers making contact. And if you peeped the Road to Glory race just a couple of moments ago, that race had a lot of pack racing, also had a lot of cautions as well. So I think the drivers from the Pro Series, if they've been watching that race, got to keep that in mind, because with this package, this track, you're down to get near somebody. You just don't want to get too close.
Now, new feature for this evening, and first time we've got 2 challenges. The 1v1 challenge makes its debut tonight in Monday Night Racing. 2 drivers within the field are going to go head-to-head, and we're going to send some money to the best finisher amongst the 2. Our first challenge features a pair of athletes from a state of Stick and Ball Sports. Bernard Pollard, former Super Bowl champion with the Baltimore Ravens of the NFL, and Swervin Cole Irvin, starting pitcher for the Oakland Athletics of Major League Baseball. Those 2 are going to go head-to-head. Highest finisher amongst those 2 is going to get a little extra money. And then a battle of Xfinity Series drivers as Will Rogers and Ryan Vargas will go toe-to-toe. Will, of course, driving for San Hunt Racing. Ryan for JD Motorsports. Winner of that battle going to get a little bit of money too. So we'll keep an eye on both of those battles over the course of the evening, Kenneth, but that should be fun. Should be a lot of fun to see how those pan out. And really cool, I think, DW, to see some of the younger drivers like Will and like Ryan embracing iRacing as a tool to help prepare themselves for the real-life races that they tackle on Saturdays.
I always am fascinated by skill that these drivers have driving these cars on their computers. It's foreign to me. I can't imagine how they do it, but some of the guys are really, really good at it, and they know what they're doing, and I think we'll see that tonight. I think this track is one of those tracks where you've got to be smooth, but you got to run fast, so you got to stay in the gas, and you got to understand the draft. You got to know how to draft the other cars around you. So a lot of elements that will come into play tonight as we go down the road here for this race. So looking forward to see what the outcome will be.
Now, if we've got 80 laps skill, just if you're ballparking it, do you have a strategy that you try and set up for and maybe try and split this up? Given the length and given the tire sets, you figure somewhere in the ballpark of maybe about 20 laps on each set of tires is what you're looking for if we get the yellows to split it up?
Yeah, I think so, because of the fact of that the cars are going to be loose in the beginning, and then they're going to get tight, so the speed's going to be in the beginning of the run. So you're going to want to really have the right tires on the car late in the race. So I'm going to try to keep the freshest tires I can on that car at the end of the race. So the first two sets, I'm going to push it and fill it out to see how the cars are going to run. But then I'm going to try to put that last set on and get track position, which is going to be tough at the same time, but to have fresh rubber on there, because it's going to mean a lot that you can stay wide open and keep the steering wheel out of it.
Do you think that there's any possibility that we might see a driver hang on to a set of tires and maybe go long on one other set to save one for what could potentially be maybe a 5, a 3, who knows, maybe set of green, white, checker restarts just to try and have fresh tires for the end? Or do you think track position is that important that even if you do that, you get chucked to the back and you won't have enough time to make it up?
No, I think because of the fact that there is going to be a lot of late race cautions, because they're going to be racing so close, and you're going to want your car to be able to maneuver as best it can towards the end, because everything else being equal, the freshest tires, I think, in the end is going to pay out. So I'd save a set as close to the end of the race as I possibly could.
And then you always, if you get a late caution, you got a set of tires, you can put a little extra air in them, play around the air a little bit and make the car do some different things it hadn't done all night. So I think that's what's going to make this race intriguing, is just if we have a late caution, what will these crew chiefs decide to do, and how the drivers will handle the situation they're put in.
We're going to have a lot of drivers who are going to be all on top of each other. And Kenneth, when we saw this race last December, we saw drivers 3 and 4 wide on the final few laps to try and get the victory. That may happen even more so tonight, because this race is worth double points. It's the only race of the year where we're going to award double points to these drivers. So technically speaking, this race, in terms of fighting your way to the championship, means more than every other race on the calendar. And for those who are trying to go after the Season 4 title of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Rowdy Energy, this is going to be a big, big race that a lot of those folks will have circled on their calendars.
And I think, James, when we move further on to the season, probably drivers are going to be looking back at that race as probably a staple in their championship hunt. There's probably going to be drivers who maybe had not liked themselves in the playoffs and saying, hey, maybe I should have done better at Michigan. Maybe I couldn't gotten more points. Or, hey, I did really great here. This is what got me to this point in the playoff standing. So this race tonight, being the only double points race, it is going to be imperative for drivers to put their A game here. And with the playoff grid that I mentioned just a couple of moments ago and how it's going to change tonight, double points only means that it is going to continue to change. And maybe we see some drivers beneath the top 20, James, get into that top 20 or maybe into the top 10.
Yeah. Before we go racing, let's go down trackside for opening ceremonies and for the national anthem of the United States of America, the Star Spangled Banner. And with tonight's invocation, here's Lonnie Klaus of Motor Racing Outreach.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity that we have to participate in this event today. We thank you for the privilege to live in the United States of America, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. We commit this event to you, and may we please you. We'll give you the thanks. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
And for the most famous words in motorsports, the command to fire engines given tonight by Loan Officer at Wyndham Castle and title partner of tonight's race, Ashleigh Kirsch.
Hi, I'm Ashley, and this is Frankie. Welcome to the AshleighKirsch.com race. Contact me for all of your home purchase and refinance needs. Drivers, start your engines.
Almost time to set tonight's starting grid for this Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150 at Michigan. Clock now down to 5 seconds. And if that holds, we're going to have a bit of a surprise for our Beef Jerky Pole Award. And indeed we do, as Justin Malillo will head up our BST Shock Technology starting grid. The Bob-Pockrass of eNASCAR beats out all the real-life drivers and the virtual drivers to set the fast time with a 40.866 to take top spot over Brad Perez, who'll be looking to rebound from internet issues a week ago. David Schildhouse, winner at Daytona to start the season, starts alongside Dale Earnhardt Jr. in row number 2. Row 3 is where you're going to find Gabe Wood, who's a threat for the title a season ago, along with the Season 2 champion of Monday Night Racing, Will Rogers. TJ Cummings rolls off from P7. He'll start alongside Charlotte Phoenix's James Pickford in the 8th spot. 9th on the grid will be NASCAR Cup Series driver Anthony Alfredo, and Brian Morris Cook of Joe Gibbs Racing starts in 10th.
Behind them back to 11th, you'll find the 44 Roger Carruth back in the inside of row 6 with Ford Martin league owner to his outside. Where you'll find Adam Cabot, the eSports Racing League champion, back in row 7 with Gary Sexton. Podium eSports' own back on the outside of that row. TJ Majors and Stefan Wilson will round out the double drivers back to P16. It'll be Seth Egger, Preston Pardis, Dylan Welch, and Mark Burbillis to your top 20.
21st on the grid will be Steve Afflont, joined by NASCAR Cup Series driver Garrett Smithley in 22nd. 23rd is where you'll find Travis Brown, Moonhead, on the grid alongside Max Kinnon, winner at Rockingham with the Street Stocks a season ago. Steven Ellis and Case Kallenbach represent hockey in the Xfinity Series of row 13. Row 14 is where you'll find Ryan Vargas and the defending champion of Monday Night Racing, Robbie Lyons. 29th on the grid is where you'll find Drew Welker. Colin Fern, last week's winner, rounds out the top 30.
Behind them, row 16 on back will follow the drivers all the way back to P40. You'll find Michael Massey and Devin Henry for Sports 360 Arizona. On that outside of row 16 in P32, before you'll find Brett Baldock for Fox 46. Garrett Miller to his outside in P34. Ron Capsa, just coming off an NHRA championship, will round out the top 35 with Tim Ducker to his outside. Cole Irvin, baseball player, will be 37. Kyle Busch will have to do a lot of work from P38 on the grid tonight before you find Matt Stallneck and Bernard Pollard Jr., the final drivers in this 40-car field.
Paulo, the only one that declined to set a time in qualifying, so whether or not by choice or by miscue, he will be starting from the rear of the grid, which might not necessarily be the worst place to be. For late-breaking stories from pit road, let's go down and introduce our pit reporter for the first time this evening. Terry Radford joins us. And Terry, what stories do you have down amongst the pits before we go green flag racing in this Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150?
Well, interesting story on Justin Malillo, the pole sitter here. I went down and spoke to him and said, man, how'd you get the pole? And he said, I drank a cherry lemonade Rowdy Energy. He said it gave him the boost of energy he needed to put him on the pole. But big story coming out of a lot of what these drivers are talking about is most of them are saying, watch out in the first 3 to 4 laps because it's going to be really slick out here. Look to see drivers kind of keep it calm in the first couple bit, and then they're going to go all hands on deck and try to win this race.
So loose cars potentially in the opening few laps. And Gil, that backs up everything that you said before we got our grid set up just a few moments ago, that you figure these drivers might be ice skating a little bit just to get the tires warmed up on the first handful of laps on a green flag run to make sure they don't wreck into each other and end up maybe having to burn a fast repair early and denting their chances of winning this race.
Yeah, I think so. I think these cars are going to be extremely loose at the beginning of the run, just because the fact the track's going to be green, the track's going to be cold, the tires are going to be cold. It'll take about 3 laps to come around.
So it could be fun ice skating. And DW, when you're dealing with tires that are coming up the temp, how difficult is that for a driver to manage that and try and make sure that you don't spin yourself out, but at the same time, you try and hang on to the track position that you've already got, especially if you're starting near the front of this field?
Yeah, I think these cars, they rely on the right rear a lot. They kind of almost steer themselves off of the right rear. So I think one of the things you got to do, and the crew chief's got to remind these drivers, warm those tires up. You'll see the cars moving around, swerving around. Get some heat in those tires, because heat is what makes the tire work. And so the sooner you can get those tires up to temp, the better that car is going to feel. So I think that's what we're going to see here early on. Got to get some heat in those tires.
Kenneth, look at the weather conditions before we go racing. Right now, the in-sim time is the default day for iRacing, May 15th, 2021, right around just shy of 5 o'clock p.m. local time in sim. Air temp is 65 degrees Fahrenheit, track temp 80 degrees Fahrenheit, winds into the north at 2 miles an hour, and humidity 56%. To me, the track temp, air temp difference is very intriguing. The air temp is about as low as you're going to find in iRacing, but the track temp a little bit higher than that. And even with the sun, maybe we're a little bit closer to Canada, a little bit further north in the country, so we're not quite getting the heat that we normally would, and that may make it a little bit easier for these drivers to get these tires up to temp. They may have a little bit more grip in these cars as well.
I think, James, these drivers are probably thanking their lucky stars that this track temperature is not in the triple digits. And like Terry said on pit road, drivers have been looking at the setups in the opening few laps of the stint and saying, hey, this car is insanely loose. We got to get this on check. So I think coupled with the track temp that we have here tonight being so low as is, I think these drivers are probably going to be easier on that regard. It's still going to be tough behind the wheel, but I think they're definitely happy that it's not a hot summer day in Michigan in sim.
A lot of interesting stories at the front of this field as well. Justin Malillo with his first pole in over a season and a half of competition. Brad Perez, who was a threat for victory consistently once he joined Monday Night Racing in Season 3, had internet issues last week that put him out early. Hopefully he can get a better start. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is back for the first time since he competed at Daytona International Speedway in the Xfinity Series cars that opened up Season 4 of Monday Night Racing. He was a factor in that race and will look to be a factor in here as well. Loves racing at Michigan in Sim 2. Gabe Wood, Will Rogers, TJ Cummings, all drivers who have playoff experience in Monday Night Racing seasons prior. But in any case, we're glad you're with us here on Podium eSports and look forward to bringing you all the action. 80 laps on tap here in this Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150 race number 3 of Season 4 of Monday Night Racing. Justin Malillo waits for the flag to unfurl from the hands of Barney the Flag Man. He takes off, flag goes down, and the Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150 at Michigan for the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Rowdy Energy is underway. They come across the stripe, and Brad Perez leads the first lap. And we talked a little bit about how plate racing this may look like and how this could sort of serve as a facsimile for Daytona or Talladega. Kenneth Bueno, look at Justin Malillo. Started on pole, and within one lap is already back to P6.
Yeah, he really struggled on the opening start, and you already saw it when they went to turn 1. It was bad news for the 53 Traction GG Ford Mustang because he got the inside, but Brad Perez made a huge launch to the green flag, was able to get right to the outside, and at one point, Malillo was bottom 3 wide, and he continues to struggle on that inside lane. No help to give him at all. He's going to finally find some help, but here's up front, new race leader, David Schildhouse, but maybe not for long. Here comes Will Rogers.
Schulthouse, a playoff driver from a season ago. Rogers, a champion from season 2, door to door. As Perez will slide up the racetrack, here comes Chase Bickford underneath them. And DW, if you're Dale Earnhardt Jr. sitting in that fifth spot right now on the outside, are you trying to get in the mix with all this, or are you just waiting to see what these drivers ahead of you are going to do before you make your move?
Well, in my mind, Dale Jr. is the odds-on favorite to win this race. He knows this racetrack. He knows these cars. He's really good on the computer with these cars. I think he's just being cautious. I don't think he wants to put himself in any harm's way right now. You see him running the high line, kind of up high, and let these guys fight for the bottom. Watch that 8 car. I think he's the guy that you're going to have to beat tonight.
Don't forget, Dale Jr.'s got more than his fair share of victories at Michigan International Speedway in the Cup Series and plenty of good finishes as well. So he knows how to get it done in real life. This is one of his favorite ovals to run in sim. Figure we'll see him light it up in the 87s when we come here with those cars later on in the season. But for the moment, we're going to turn our attention a little bit further back in the field. This is on board with Adam Cabot, the Magic Man out of Glen Gardner, New Jersey, who currently sits just outside the top 10 in 12th, door-to-door, with TJ Majors racing for position and watching some of these battles unfold just ahead of him. Get it?
They continue to go about 2 by 2, couple of rows deep as Cabot kind of in the middle of all this, and I think this is just exactly like expected, James. When you put these cars on this kind of track, everyone's going to be all over the place. You got to want to rely on the draft, on positioning, where you want to put yourself on the entrance to the corner. Here's a good look from Anthony Alfredo in that sim seats machine as he looks to the inside. He's going to have a different approach than the driver up top in Brad Perez, but he also wants to keep himself in the draft. That's just a big key of this kind of draft racing, this kind of plate racing, and that's why you see everybody all over the place as Perez almost sent it 3 wide. He's going to stick to the bottom for now.
I think that's why most drivers like this racetrack. It's really, really wide. You can run 3 and 4 wide in the corner and not be in any harm's way. And so there's a lot of options here. Drivers love options. The fastest way around is the bottom if you can hang it on the bottom. But if you can, you go up top and you can make some good moves up on the top too. So most drivers really like this racetrack because they got a lot of options.
You've got options, you've got lanes, but if you run that high line, you can also burn off the tires as well. So, Gil, if you're crew chief in any of these drivers, are you worried about that? Are you telling your driver to try and sit down towards the bottom and maybe avoid trying to run that high line too much? Or at this point, are you just trying to get as much track position as you can get?
I think right now the track is going to be dirty up top. I mean, Junior's making it work, but for the simple reason that he knows how to keep his car in a good position. You're not going to want to stay nose to tail too much. You get your engine overheated because you're going to lose power then or potentially blow up. But I think the bottom line is where you're going to want to be. It's the shortest way around, but your entry into the corners are going to make a huge difference on your speed on exit.
There are also plenty of ways that you can get in the corner here too, DW, right?
Yeah, well, when you run the high line, you get such a great launch off the corner, and that really gives you a lot of straightaway speed. And I really think what Dale Jr. is doing is he's taking care of his tires right now. I don't think he's putting his car in harm's way. He's analyzing. It's one of the things a driver has to do constantly is look at the competition. Where are they running? Where am I better than they are? Where I might be able to make a pass? And then stay out of trouble. You got to keep your eyes open to be sure that some guy in front of you, cars in front of you, like we just see here, don't get in trouble.
Oh, big trouble, though, in the middle of turn 3, first yellow flag of the evening, and there were a ton of cars that got caught up in that. We might as well just about call it a big one, Kenneth Bueno, but no less than about 10 to 15 that I saw out of the corner of my eye as Anthony Alfredo gets into the fence and collects a huge chunk of the field, running especially somewhere in that 15th to 20th range.
And I mentioned that Adam Cabot was kind of in the midst of it all. Same deal with Anthony Alfredo. That's kind of what happens when you're in the eye of the storm, James. When the hurricane strikes, you have nothing to do but just brace for impact. And unfortunately, Anthony Alfredo gets caught up on the worst end. But it starts right there. I believe it was James Bickford that got into a driver on the top side. There's Alfredo that gets hit as well from a car coming back up the track. I believe Gabe Wood is involved in this as well. There's the 42 machine. And he gets collected in it as well, so it's a multiple car pileup, and you'll see it again. Everybody packed in. You'll see Bickford, that bottom black and blue car on the right side. There's that 29, big of wooden stair, but then everybody starts to pile in, and Gabe Wood goes hard into the outside wall along with many others.
DW, I think that's a classic case. I know you've seen it and been around it many a time yourself of a driver trying to clear himself and move up the racetrack, but the problem is you can't clear yourself when somebody else's front bumper is right there, and that was the case of Bickford. Just came right up into Brad Perez and came across his nose, and next thing you know, 10 cars are torn up in the middle of turn 3.
Yeah, well, that's the downside of pack racing. When you have cars on top of each other, you have accidents. You don't do anything intentional. Your car will push up or get loose or something will happen. It'll put you in the car, and first thing you know, you got a bunch of cars involved. So you always try to avoid the big one. And with the pack racing like you see here, you're going to eliminate, or you're going to have several cars involved in this accident. So I think I really think that's what Dale Jr. was doing. I think he felt that and was trying to avoid that.
Let's go down to pit road here. We've got our first takers for pit stops in tonight's Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150. Let's hear from Terry Radford.
Well, James, I spoke to 2 drivers right here under that stint of green flag race, and Anthony Alfredo being one of them. He was talking about this race 1 year ago. He said he was all the way at home, couldn't get to his sim rig, so he ran this on an old swivel chair with a 19-inch monitor, and he finished second. He was really hoping to get a good run here tonight, but got caught up in an early incident. And for the struggles for Justin Malillo, the pole sitter, he just said, I'm a bundle of nerves. I didn't know what to do. I got on the gas, couldn't figure it out going into 1. He slid back, but he's trying his hardest to get back to the front. He continues to push the Rowdy energy. He keeps saying every sip he takes, he gets a tenth faster.
But that's what happens, guys. When you can go out and run a lap by yourself around this big old racetrack, and you can hold it wide open, and you can do a lot of things when you're on the track by yourself. But when you get around other race cars, the turbulence off the other cars, the air coming off the cars moving around, if you don't have a little bit of experience, that can frighten the heck out of you. So I think he made good decisions. I don't think he intentionally fell back, but I think it's going to work out for him as he gets kind of a feel for what the car is doing and how it's going to react around other cars.
Yeah, I think you're right, DW. These cars have got such a low profile to them, and they're cutting such a small hole in the air that when they move around at all, they get disrupted easy and they get sent around. The side draft is going to be more important with these cars than probably most any other car they're going to be in.
All valid points. We're going to turn our attention to the Fox Sports In-Race Reporter for the first time this evening. Make sure we get that before we go to green. Ford Martin now joins us, and Ford picked up a little bit of damage, but by and large, is the car all right?
Yeah, it's not too bad. I don't know how we made it to that. I was just kind of following Dale's lead there in front of me, and I thought he would just lead me to the promised land. So just a little bit, but not too bad. And track position means so much right now. So I think we're in a good spot. We just gotta keep at it and see what happens here.
And time for our first Jarrett to Jarrett-esque moment on a podium broadcast, because you've got your dad in here. So, Gil, any words for your son here before we go back green flag racing?
I mean, he's going to have to be a little bit smoother on that wheel. He's going to have to hold a pretty wheel. I don't know what's wrong with him right there, but he should have seen Darrell for a long time that if you don't hold a pretty wheel in plate racing, you're going to go backwards.
Buffing off a lot of speed, Ford. Buffing off a lot of speed. You got to tighten it up.
Hey, that's why he's the crew chief and I'm the driver. I'll just do the driving.
Oh my gosh.
We'll let him get back to driving here. We'll see if we can get a word with Ford a little bit later in the race. But for now, pace car is off. Green flag is going to come back out on lap 11 of 80, and DJ Cummings is your race leader. Top 18 cars all stayed out. So a mix of strategies as we go back to green flag racing in Michigan, and Cummings got a good restart, Kenneth. And how about Adam Cabot, who's made a charge in the opening 10 laps of this race, up to third, now looking for second as he heads underneath David Schildhouse into turn 1.
He's going to be able to peep the nose out ahead for P2. His top 3 have pretty much broken away, but you're right, Adam Cabot has been on the move since the drop of the green flag. He started in P13 to start, and I mentioned earlier that he was in kind of the eye of the storm in the midst of all the chaos. Well, now he's kind of in the more comfortable spot here, chasing on the race leader. There he is, just on board here in that Lawn Tech Chevrolet Camaro, the eSports Racing League champion, to get him into the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Rowdy Energy. And I think he's definitely got a plan set up here. And here he comes inside, back to turn 1.
look at Adam Cabot go. He's got an intriguing story compared to just about everybody else in this league. For all the folks who have real-life connections to racing in some way, shape, or form, Adam Cabot makes his name primarily through the sim racing side of things. Won the championship at Anthony Alfredo's eSports Racing League back in the spring of last year to earn his way into Season 3 of Monday Night Racing, where he won the race with the IndyCars at Indianapolis right around Memorial Day and was a championship Ford driver. So he clearly has speed, clearly has know-how, and now is pacing the field as DJ Cummings will tuck in behind him and try and either learn some lessons or go for the race lead himself as he drops to the inside across start finish to complete lap 14. At that point, it was Cabot by 2/100ths of a second, DW.
Yeah, it's tight racing. And you know, once you get the car strung out a little bit, you see we're starting to get a lot of single file racing here. You can take a deep breath, relax a little bit, if there is such a thing as relaxing in a race car. But here you've kind of worked your way through the traffic. You're not all on top of each other. And now you start thinking about, what do I need to do to make my car better? It's a little tight, it's a little loose, whatever it might be. And you're talking to the crew chief or you're talking to whomever and trying to make some good adjustments when you do make that next pit stop.
The trickiest thing, though, I think, Kenneth, and maybe Gil, if you've got some input on this as well, since all these setups are fixed, you can't do anything to the car, you can't do anything to the tires, so any adjustments you're making with these cars, it's all going to be about driver input. Gil, as you said earlier, it's going to be about how you change your driving style and how you change your corner entry and exit to maybe help with tire wear and help address whether or not you're driving the car looser or driving the car a little bit tighter.
It really is. iRacing has done such a great job with the inputs they've done with the tire fall off that the guys are really going to have to watch their RPM to see when they turn that wheel, they're scrubbing speed. So they're going to have to change their line just to keep the RPM up on that motor so that you can really, stay ahead and stay caught up. But again, the drafting and these cars have got such good aerodynamics on them that they're going to get buffered and moved around more than probably any other field they've ever been in.
Well, that's the whole thing. When you run the bottom, you scrub off a little more. You scrub the tires a little bit more because there's a tighter radius turn. I always like to run a little the middle of the track, or maybe a little higher. It seemed like the tires would last a little bit longer, and they'd be there for me when I needed them. So having a car that handles well, a car that's maneuverable, that is so critical right now.
Let's see whether or not these drivers can keep into one piece as Ryan Vargas has joined the party up at the front of the field. First time he's been near the top spot after starting in the 27th position and on old tires as well. So a nice drive for Ryan Vargas, who very clearly has switched quickly back into oval mode after being in sporty car mode this weekend. He was one of a handful of folks in tonight's field that was down taking in the season finale for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Made his way down to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta and hung out at Petit Le Mans, and has transitioned back into the turn left lifestyle very nicely, Kenneth, as it stands. He's riding in third.
He definitely is. And if you look at the drivers here, Vargas, Schildhaus, I think to mention the most, that these two are in oval mode, but they're in the mode of the last time they visited this Michigan International Speedway. If you recall, the last time they went to this track here in Monday Night Racing, as they casually go 3 wide for the race lead, Schildhaus on the bottom. They ran this track with the 1987 Cup Series cars, and guess who were front runners in the chance for the race win? That 20 of David Schildhaus, the 6 of Ryan Vargas. So these guys not only have the oval mode ticked in, but they've got the Michigan mode ticked in as well. They've got some experience to run up front here and contend for the win. That's exactly what they're doing right now as of lap 18.
And for more on Ryan Vargas, let's go down to Terry Radford. Terry.
So Ryan Vargas has been complaining over the radio, and he's also been complaining in his chat as well, that being mired back in traffic's not fun. You saw him stay out on that pit stop. It put him up into the top 5 for the first time this evening. He says that people aren't committing to their lanes in turns 1 and 2, but 3 and 4, they're wanting to run in the middle to high groove as there's a wreck on the speedway.
Oh, big trouble there. Big trouble for DJ Cummings. He was the first one I saw go around. I think Adam Cabot got swept up in that mess as well. There was contact between some of the leaders over in turn 2, and we now have our second yellow flag of the evening. We'll get the replay momentarily, but this looks like it was contact between Cummings and Cabot, and I believe Devin Henry may have had a piece of this as well, Kenneth.
Yeah, it was big on the entrance to turn 1, and while there were 3 wide, it just gets tight right there. Schildhaus just kind of ran up the track just a little bit, forced DJ to kind of wash up, and then got into the 17. They barely made contact, but any amount of contact in a pack style race is enough to cause a wreck. Matter of fact, a big one. Luckily enough, it's only really a 2-car pileup here. You'll take a look at it again. Here's Devin Henry with a nice look, but you'll see the 2 cars up in front. Cummings in the middle, Cabot on the top. They make the contact. Cummings gets hooked. Henry gets a piece of it as well, heads up into the outside wall. That could have been a lot bigger, James, than it really was, but unfortunately for the 3, this is the first time they've got damage, and they may resort to the fast repair this early on.
And DW, I think this goes back to everything you said about pack racing earlier, where you really hate to have to run up this close to people if you can avoid it, because that's exactly why we're under yellow. A little bit of contact between DJ Cummings and Adam Cabot sends them both around, and both of them now are going to have to take their fast repairs very early on in proceedings.
When you're in a corner and you're 3 wide, there's a pretty good chance something like that may happen. The car on the bottom pushes up a little bit, or the car in the middle gets a little loose, or the car on the outside. You never know. So when you're 3 wide in the middle of the turn, sometimes this is exactly what happens. Particularly when your drivers are maybe not quite as experienced as you'd like for them to be.
More cars coming down pit road means we have another opportunity to head down to Terry Radford to the pits. Terry.
So I've been talking to a couple of drivers, and I've been listening to the radio chatter. They said 4 tires was the way to go here. They're getting a little on edge with the way people are starting to race here. You see them go 2 and 3 wide. You're seeing a lot of pinching movements. We saw it on that caution right there where Ryan Vargas was talking, when we were talking about Vargas. People want to drift up through the middle of the corner. 4 tires is the move here. All drivers come down pit lane for the first time this evening, and look at the race off pit road. Here they come. It's going to be a drag race for 3rd.
A big drag race for 3rd, but most importantly, look who just came out in front of everybody else. Max Kennan with a short stop. I have a hunch he may have taken 2 tires on this pit stop, and that would be why he's out in front. Track position key. As we remind you that tonight's broadcast of Monday Night Racing is brought to you by our friends at Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages. You can head on to their website at AshleighKirschMortgages.com to find all your needs, potentially getting help on financing your next home today. Once again, visit their website at AshleighKirsch.com to get your next quote today. Let's take a moment here while we're under the yellow. Even though he is right there on pit road and a little bit torn up, I think we'd be remiss not to give a special shout out from all of us at Podium eSports to the newly minted NHRA Funny Car World Champion for 2021, Ron Capps, for Don Schumacher Racing in real life with the Napa Dodge in Monday Night Racing Crypto Autosport. But the San Luis Obispo, California native picked up his 2nd World Championship yesterday at the World Finals at Auto Club Raceway in Pomona, California. And really, really cool, I think, DW, to see people in drag racing coming over to Monday Night Racing and taking their tack at some oval stuff. You wouldn't necessarily think Ron Capps is any sort of oval driver, but he loves running a lot of stuff here. But also cool to see him get a world championship at the highest level of funny car racing in the country.
He ran Eldora, and when we were racing over there, he ran most of those races. Look, I think Kyle Larson is a good example of what being in a race car all the time. I think it's good for you. I think it helps you develop skill. I think it helps you understand what kind of car it is and what needs to be done to make that car better. I think the more time you spend, if you're a driver, the more time you can spend in a car, going around a racetrack, or even going in a straight line, I think it pays off. I think it pays big benefits.
And Gil, as we get ready to come to the green flag here, when you've got a driver who's so well versed in different disciplines of racing, does it make it easier as a crew chief for you two to communicate, because you've got a driver who understands how setup might be a little bit different, comparing a stock car to, maybe a Pro 2 or Pro 4 truck that goes off-road racing?
Yeah, it does, but also the crew chief has to be aware of exactly what kind of form of racing he's been in, because I've had a couple of guys that race dirt, Dave Blaney, that always liked their cars extremely loose in dirt, obviously, and they wanted to translate that over into asphalt racing, and a lot of times it got them in trouble. So Ron has a lot of different areas that he likes to run, so he does a good job, whether it's straight line or Baja, or he even likes dirt racing, so he's very well versed in a lot of different racing.
And once again, a tremendous congratulations from all of us at Podium Esports to Ron Capps on winning his second NHRA Funny Car World Championship over the weekend. We'll be looking forward to seeing two-time compete all season long in Monday Night Racing. As we go back to the green flag on lap 23 of 80, Max Kennan has jumped out in front, but look at that battle for second. Kenneth Bueno, you've got Garrett Smithley, Anthony Alfredo, James Bickford, and Stephen Ellis, reporter for the Hockey News based out of Toronto, Ontario, who won at Talladega in season 3.
And of course, they're all in this mix, but Alfredo and Bickford, if you recognize them in the first handful of laps, they were involved in the first yellow. Alfredo used the faster pair, so that's the reason he has a clean Ford Mustang Super Late model. Bickford was able to get most of the damage repair fixed, so he's back in the mix as well. I guess just to tell you just how quickly things can happen here in Michigan. You can be involved in a wreck 1 second, the next second you're back in competing for the race lead, and there's Bickford for the Charlotte Phoenix Esports team to the inside. Bit of ducking underneath Anthony Alfredo. I don't believe he's going to be able to make the move, but maybe get some help from Smithley on the way there.
And DW, if you're Anthony Alfredo, you've already used your faster pair, so you don't ever reset on the car. You get damaged, you're basically done for the night. Are you trying to just control this field from the front as much as you can and maybe get a little bit of co-opetition from some of your friends around you? I assume that's probably Alfredo's line of thinking here, yeah?
Well, my experience has been most of these guys, it's checkers or wreckers. They want to win this race, and drivers don't think like normal people do. He's thinking about, I got a fast car, I'm out front, and I'm going to do whatever I got to do to stay here and try to win this race. So the mentality that I've seen in most of these races has been stand on the gas and hope for best outcome you can get.
You hope for the best outcome you can get. We'll see what happens to Anthony Alfredo over the course of the next, call it maybe 65-ish laps or so. But in the meantime, Max Kennan has some company in the form of James Bickford. Alfredo there to his outside. Garrett Smithley's just drifted back a little bit, as has Stephen Ellis and Justin Melillo. We talked about him struggling off the opening green flag, but here he is, Kenneth Bueno, and he's back up to P6, which is where he was when we get to take lap 2. Not quite as high as he's been in the field throughout this race, but after the way he free fell through this group in the opening laps of this race, I think he'll take being back near the top 5.
He probably wouldn't, especially because he's within draft right now of the driver in front, the 46 of Stephen Ellis. He's got some wiggle room. He's got some space to be able to catch up to the field and maybe make a chase for the race lead. But what I liked from Melillo there on that opening jump was that he didn't panic when he lost all those positions. He was falling back, but he decided to kind of just tuck in, play it smart, and he was able to stop the bleeding. And that's in part what caused him to get up to here right now, where he's sitting just outside of the top 5. So he's been able to keep himself composed. He's been able to walk himself through, even through some of the adversity, and now he's within the grasp of the top 5 leaders. As you run on board here with Garrett Smithley, he's kind of walking nicely here in 4th as they almost go 3 wide for the lead.
Oh, they are going to go 3 wide for the race lead as James Bickford dove it deep underneath Max Kennan and got the spot. He should be able to slide up in front of Kennan and maybe take the race lead. He does. Kennan tries to duck underneath him. Garrett Smithley tries to figure out which driver he needs to follow as Anthony Alfredo runs the high line. There goes Bickford sideways a little bit as he and Kennan make contact down the middle of the back straightaway. And Bickford will take the lead into 3. Here comes Alfredo trying to look underneath, and now Garrett Smithley to the bottom of Alfredo trying to take away 3rd. And as they continue to race for the race lead, let's go down to Terry Ranford on pit road.
So I just talked to Max Kennan about his decision to take no tires. He took none. He said 30 laps on the tires is what you would do. His spotter ran the Road to Glory race and said, "You're pack racing, just go." As he gets in Anthony Alfredo, and he's spinning down the back straightaway.
That big incident for everybody else behind him. Those two actually made off decently well. Alfredo was okay, but there were a lot of drivers back there, Kenneth, who got swept up in the aftermath of that. And another yellow flag out in this Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150 as trouble strikes the field in turn 2.
Yeah, a lot of drivers here get involved. Stefan Wilson gets caught up in it, but there's the start of it all in 1 and 2. I mean, even with Terry giving the story that tires mean nothing for Kennan, certainly meant something right there as he got really loose on the inside of the corner and kind of just moved up the track barely into Anthony Alfredo, and then multiple cars get in, and that's a hard slam there for Will Rogers in the 24. That's Stefan Wilson in the blank number 25, upside down. It's the first time we see a car go on its roof, James, so maybe flip counter +1 here for Michigan. Here's a look from Adam Cabot, and you'll see the mess unfold right in front of him. All you got to do is just hop on the binders and hope it sticks.
So,
well, I think what you don't realize is that these cars are so fast around this racetrack. That's why you saw that car get upside down. And I don't know what kind of, I'm sure they enforce the rule package very tightly, but we had 3 L's that we live by: low, left, and light. And so I don't know what kind of package they've got, I don't know how much left side weight they've got, how much wedge they're running in these cars, but that can make a huge difference in tire wear and how the car handles in traffic. So not sure where they are, but low, light, and left was always good.
It always was. The evolution in these cars is tremendous, the way they've come, because they're original grassroots racing. There's been so much innovation in these super late models over the past, several decades, that these cars are extremely fast for this track. But if I'm a crew chief on pit road today, I'm watching what Max Kinnon did right there to see what kind of speed he had and what kind of control he was going to have of his car. Obviously, when everybody got to jockeying around, he didn't have the grip he needed, so that's going to become a factor at the end of the race.
It looks to me like these guys are thinking about saving a set of tires for a late caution, because most guys have used 1.7, but they've still got 2 in the pit. So I'm thinking I want to save a brand new set of tires for a late caution.
I think so, because you're seeing right there that even though Max was able to hold him off, as he started trying to block, I think the grip in his tires weren't what everybody else around him were. So obviously he was not able to control his car as well. So tires late in the race, I think, is going to be an advantage.
Gilla, I wanted to come to you on that right as that wreck happened, because I wanted to ask you, based on what you've seen, do you buy what Max Kinnon said, and that tires don't mean anything until you've run 30 laps, or do you think that these drivers will benefit more from trying to come in a little bit earlier, especially at this point in the race when you're also still trying to think about maybe saving a set of tires for the end?
Well, I think that he was banking on the fact that track position was going to keep him up there. But obviously the way these cars are dancing around so much, that the cars on the inside and the outside of you, when you're stuck in the middle, are going to be able to suck you right around. So you're going to want to have as much tire print on the track and good rubber as you can get.
Tires are funny. They will feel great. I mean, if they use a set of tires, they'll feel great right up to a point. But when they go away big time. I think that's what he was saying about 30 laps. He felt like he could get 30 good laps out of that set of tires, and then put on another set that would work out best for him. So I've been there before. I know you got a set of tires, you think you're in pretty good shape, and all of a sudden they just go away. And when they go away big time.
We could potentially see a big cliff in tire wear right around lap 30. That'll be something we'll need to watch potentially at lap 60, which will be the next time we should see that cycle through. As it stands, though, remind you that tonight's broadcast of Monday Night Racing is brought to you by Rowdy Energy. 2-time NASCAR Cup Series champion Kyle Busch and beverage entrepreneur Jeff Church have collaborated to develop Rowdy Energy with a proprietary enhanced energy formula consisting of time-release caffeine, sugar reduction ingredients, amazing taste, and hydration levels above leading sports drinks. Rowdy Energy is a cleaner, smarter energy drink. Visit RowdyEnergy.com to place your order today, and if you use that code on the screen, text MNR to 855-856-7912. You can receive 13% off of your first order of Rowdy Energy at their website, RowdyEnergy.com.
So guys, we were talking about Ron Capps. Don't forget, Rick Hendrick had a big weekend. Kyle Larson won the Cup Championship, and Greg Anderson won the Pro Stock Championship in NHR, and they were all sponsored by HendrickCars.com. Rick Hendrick had a whale of a weekend.
Greg Anderson, 5-time Pro Stock champion, too. That's not something that you're going to see equaled anytime soon. That man's been one of the best in that class of nitro drag racing for a long, long while. As the restart comes out, we're back underway. Green flag in the Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150. Anthony Alfredo on the point without a fast repair, but with the fast machine. That SimSeats Ford Mustang immediately rockets to the front. Kenneth Bueno, and he'll have Garrett Smithley, Stephen Ellis, Justin Bolillo, Gary Sexton, and Ryan Vargas in tow.
going to be behind him. Alfredo is going to worry now just a bit, though, James, because if we're talking draft pack racing, then Alfredo does not want to be that far ahead of the field. This caution comes out almost there between David Schildhouse. He got a hit at the outside wall as he was making a move through the pack. There you see that purple and white machine there. That Chevrolet Camaro kind of all out of whack. Maybe a pancake to the right side of that car. That almost could have been big, James.
They scattered everywhere. Good on board here from Schildhouse, who just overdrove turn 2. DW, I don't think there's anything more you can say about it than that. He just got tight on corner exit and smacked the fence.
That was a tank slapper right there. He was up against the wall hard and did a lot of damage to the car.
Yeah, there's one thing about these cars other than a cup car. The components are super light. So when you hit the wall like that, they're not going to drive very good after that.
Yeah, the bodies are, I don't know, what are they, fiberglass or carbon fiber, whatever they're made out of. So the bodies are really light, and you have to build a lot of structure behind those bodies to keep the car intact.
It's an intriguing difference of the super late model, which differs from the regular rate model in real life. You've got these cars that have been sort of taken to the extreme. Primarily, they race on short tracks, less than a half mile in length, but they are lighter and they are faster and they have more power than their counterparts. More importantly, though, I think, for the purposes of keeping a car in decent shape when you hit a wall, these super late models have a straight rail chassis as compared to the perimeter chassis that your standard late model stocks have. So when they hit the fence, they're going to take a little bit more of a beating because there's not as much support on the edges of the doors to take a hit if you smack the wall either on the outside or the inside, and that's why we're seeing some of the drivers who have gotten into the fence drop back a little bit. David Schildhouse is falling back. I saw Kyle Busch with damage to the right side of his car. He's dropped back on the back, and it's these clean cars that are out in front of the field. Here's a good look at Gary Sexton trying to race his way into the top 5 for the first time this evening. Good look at Ryan Vargas and last week's winner Colin Fern as well, get him, as Stephen Ellis takes the lead away from Alfredo and Smithley and leads this field coming down the back straightaway in Michigan.
Aerodynamics is so important on this track, 2-mile racetrack, that if you do any damage to the nose of the car, then it's going to hurt your performance. So that's another thing you're constantly aware of and trying to avoid is banging up and beating up and getting your car all skin up, because if you do, it's just not going to go through the air like you'd like for it to.
Yeah, Daryl, I think you'll remember back when we used to run All-Pro and All-American Challenge, when they first took the All-American Challenge cars to Atlanta. The cars were so light back then, nobody knew what to expect. The doors were just folding back on them because they were breaking apart. Nobody was ready for that. So these cars have evolved so far now that they're not coming apart.
We're talking about straight rail. That just means that there's no frame that runs out to the outside of the car like there is on a Cup car or on an Xfinity car. Straight rail means that the right side rail just goes straight back. It doesn't have the kick out. So they have to build support out there to hang the body on and to protect the body and to keep the car, the body and all that off the tires if they get into the wall.
That was my favorite race of the year at Nashville, All-American 400, because all the thought processes from all across the country showed up at one racetrack. From the north, the south, even the Canadian guys came down. So some of the things that you got to see were amazing, but the All-Pro cars seemed to be the ones that were usually the most far out. Bob Harmon used to catch the most grief, the guy that ran All-Pro.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the All-American 400 was a special race. They just had it here recently, a few weeks ago. Snowball Derby coming up, and these cars at a track like down in Pensacola or here in Nashville, they put on a whale. They're putting on a whale of a show right now. Don't get me wrong, but these cars, that's really what their intentions were. That's what they were intended for. But they adapt to this racetrack very, very well.
A little bit of a different combo that we have here, but a fun one to watch nonetheless, as we'll go back down to Terry Radford on pit road, who's got some stories between two drivers in one of our head-to-head challenges. Sounds like a little bit of incidents going on between Cole Irvin and Bernard Pollard Jr., no, Terry?
Yeah, well, I just spoke to Cole Irving, and he just flat out said, pay attention to Twitter. I've been talking trash all week long. He said Bernard Pollard Jr. has been in the back of the pack all season. There's no reason that Cole can't go up there and beat him head-to-head this afternoon. I've yet to get comment from Bernard Pollard Jr., but I promise you it's some major beef. Cole's looking for his fast repair towards the end of the race. Stay out of the wrecks, and he knows he's going to get past this 31 Ally Camaro by the end of it.
Kenneth, I suppose, essentially since we have the originator of the phrase in this race, Travis Brown, running in 10th, is it appropriate time for us to ring the bell and say, we got beef, we got beef?
There probably is, but there's beef near the rear of the field. It's a big crash on the back straightaway, James. It began with the 14 machine of Dylan Welch. David Schildhouse got caught up in it. And just as you were saying that, you were screaming out beef. Everybody just went all over the place, wrecking all over. We have another caution at the halfway mark of this race.
And they're saying, where's the beef? Where's the beef?
I do love being a good quarter pounder, Daryl. I'm with you on that. But trouble here for, looks like maybe it was Ford Martin that got up in the fence. We might be able to see if we get a word with Ford. But Ford bounces off Dylan, bounces off Brett, bounces off Junior. Everybody sort of wrecks from there, it looks like.
Oh, my Lord.
Trouble.
So that's the third big one we've had. We're going to run out of cars here before long.
We're going to run out of cars, but you talking about the guys with a little banner going on. You got the originator of the guy that's stirring the pot sitting with us tonight. Outside the race car, Daryl was one of the best at getting in somebody's head before the race, so they're going to have to work hard to outdo him.
Surprised that nobody ever used Sharp references a little bit more, given that the Jaws nickname was there for so long. Seems like an easy one that you could have drawn 2 and 2 together, because we know you could eat them up on the track, VW. But for now,
Well, I think for whatever reason, people didn't seem to like Jaws. I don't know what the problem was.
well, let's see if we can get some John from our Fox Sports in-race reporter, Ford Martin, see if we can get a word with him and figure out what exactly happened in that incident. We'll see if we can get him up to the booth here in short.
I remember he didn't have anything to do with it, I'm sure.
Oh, maybe not. But in either case, we've got our Fox Sports in-race reporter, Ford Martin, with us. And Ford, just take us through what happened there on that incident.
It just more driver ran out of talent. It was a little bit of an arrow push on exit, and once you get so close to the wall with these cars, it's really easy to kind of be just sucked into the wall, and that's kind of what happened with me. And I was kind of following Steve Fafon or Moonhead there in front of me, and kind of mimic what their line was doing, and they got close to the wall, and resulted in me getting close to the wall, except I was just a little step further out and let out of the gas and just ran to the wall. But it's one of those things, but we're gonna get this repair. We're not gonna use a fast repair, so I think we're gonna be okay. This Fox Sports app, Chevrolet here has been good. We've run competitive all day long, so we'll just have to come and get them from the back.
Has it surprised you how much that wall has come out? Because that's not the first time someone's gotten tight on corner exit in turn 2. So with the way these packs have formed, has that shocked you a little bit, how much you've had to stay off it and how much that car tightens up on corner exit at that point in the track?
Not really. We going back and watching film of the race that we had in season 2. That's what a lot of guys were talking about. That's what it's going to do with these cars, and it's kind of you're going to get a bigger run running along the outside like that, especially in these packs. But the higher you get, the more you flirt with the wall, and the more you flirt with the wall, you could be sucked in there. And Dylan Welch kind of ran the back of me there, only because I ran to the wall. But it's been good racing so far. We really enjoyed it. I know the fans have really. I know we probably wish we got a little more green flag racing in, but I think a lot of the fans here would enjoy some of the racing we've had up here in the front.
Dad, any words for son now that he's pushed it in the fence and brought out a yellow?
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
We kind of knew this. We were expecting this right here, so all the guys behind the wall had bear bond ready and a lot of things ready, because I felt like we were probably going to run into this issue tonight after some of the fast performances. The guys behind the wall, we didn't practice pit stops, we practiced repairs.
Hammers,
Wow.
pry bars,
Sawzalls, we had it all going.
All right. Well, y'all better almost get ready for another one here, because we might have to come back down pit road, being at the rear of the field back here.
Well, we'll be watching for you.
Thanks, DW.
Yeah, buddy.
There's Ford Martin there, who I think, I don't know if he signed up for quite this kind of adventure over the course of the evening, but I think he definitely has been in for a little bit more than he expected, as leaders are going to come back to it on lap 43. Robbie Lyons is your race leader, but he's not used his fast repair. And I have to believe, I want to come back to you on this. How smart is it looking if you still have one of those in your back pocket? Because the longer we go on and the more 5-6 car wrecks we see, especially in the middle of the field, the more I'm thinking, if I save my fast repair until lap 60 and I can stay near the lead lap, I almost feel like that's the smarter play.
I really think it is. I mean, the strategies at Talladega have changed forever. I'm going to be in the front or I'm going to lay back. but only having one fast repair in your pocket, I think laying back where you can stay out of trouble, heck, there's liable to be only half the field left with 20 to go at this point.
I think a fast repair and a set of tires, and that might be the key to winning this thing.
Exactly.
We've seen it happen before on Podium eSports. Friendly reminder, back in the early days in the Elite Series, you had Andrew Fayos, who was the 4th fastest of the championship for that night, but was the only one to save a set of tires for the final green, white, checker restart. And after running 15th for the whole race, drove past everybody to win the title at the end of the season. It can happen again as James Bickford chops to the inside to get underneath Garrett Smedley, and they're all going to try and chase after Alfredo, who's back out front, and Will Rogers, who runs second.
We've seen a tale of two sides here, James, on these restarts. You have some points where the leaders just kind of get away scot-free. They seem to have no issues commanding the field through the first handful of laps. And then you have restarts like this from the front row in Garrett Smedley and Robbie Lyons, where they just kind of pull the anchor. They start to drop back a little bit. Smedley now trying to recover as he goes middle 3 wide in between Rogers and James Bickford. But Robbie Lyons just behind them on 22-lap old tires, stayed out on the last caution for the pit stop. He's also somewhat dropping backwards because now here comes Preston Pardis. There's Justin Malillo. There's Colin Fern. There's the 44, Raja Karut. There's a whole host of cars ready to take it all away. And I think Lyons may be in the middle of the Hornet's nest very soon.
He's in the middle.
You see how the cars are moving. You got this shot here, it's a great shot. See how the cars are wobbling around, moving around? That's not the driver doing that. That's the air doing that. So the air off the cars really affects the way these cars drive and handle. And that's something you have to adjust to. You have to figure out what's happening here and how to react to it.
I want to go right back to that, DW, because you look at somebody like Robbie Lyons, who's clearly staying out, I think, for track position. Yes, he's got damage on the nose of his car, but if he can tuck up behind somebody and just ride around for a bit, the best case scenario, you get another yellow. If they wreck in the back, you gain all that track position, and then you can pick from somewhere in the top 10 instead of picking from about 20th, which is where he was before this most recent restart.
Damage won't hurt you too bad when you're running behind somebody because you're just drafting along behind them and they're breaking the air in front of you. So that doesn't affect the car too much. You can't lead, but if you save that quick repair, that might be the hot tip. I think we're going to see that before this race is over with.
Yeah, you really are. And the car that's running behind the car with damage is probably in the worst case scenario because the air has become so dirty for them. Their car is probably moving around the most, so they're not going to really push that guy in front of them as bad as they might if the guy in front of them was a clean race car.
These cars, I noticed the nose on these cars are really slow swoop the nose. You're not going to run up behind the car in front of you and bump draft him. I think if you do that, you just you run that nose up on the back of the car in front of you, lift them off the ground, and you spin them out. So I think these guys have got to be aware of that and get close, but not touch.
Let's go a little bit further back in the field. We haven't talked much about Dale Jr. in this race after he got caught up in that opening yellow flag, but Terry Radford, you got a little bit more on Junior's 8 machine and the Filter Time Chevrolet.
Yeah, I got the fangirl for a second, got fast pasta Anthony Alfredo to come over the radio and say, yo, Dale, Terry from the broadcast booth wants to see how your race is going. He said he used the fast repair already, but he's having a pretty good time. Talking about the battles he's getting to do here, hoping to stay out of trouble. I told him I loved him. He didn't tell me he loved me back. Let's hope that Anthony Alfredo holds this lead because that's the #1 MVP for talking to Dale Jr. for me.
So, Junior,
I don't think Dale Jr.'s out of this race. I think he got in trouble there. I think he's being very cautious. I think he'll be a factor before it's over with.
I think it goes right back to what you said, and Gil, I'll let you jump in here too, but just sort of riding around and watching all these drivers fight in front of him, he knows that you don't necessarily have to go just yet. And Gil, if you're crew chiefing on the box, is that something you're reminding one of your drivers here if you're watching all this racing 3 and 4 wide near the front?
Exactly. I mean, you got to be aware of who you're around, who you're racing at all times, because you're going to be around a guy with a lot of experience. If you're around Dale Jr. or Kyle Busch in this race, you pretty well know that you can take some chances or you can move in and out of traffic. But if you're with some guys that are down on experience, you really want to play defense around them because you're going to run out of fast repairs.
Yeah, I think that's part of it's 60 laps. I think in 50 of those laps, you're not so much worried about your car. You're just worried about the other drivers and how they react in certain situations. You don't want to put a guy in a bad spot and make him make a mistake, but you do want to be able to take advantage of something when the opportunity comes, and that will be late in this race.
Meanwhile, casual 3 wide for the race lead at Michigan. We'd be remiss not to point that out, that they've just been sitting there door to door to door for about the last lap and a half or two, Kenneth Bueno. And Colin Fern is going to take advantage of the high line to get around James Bickford. Alfredo will fall in line, as will Garrett Smithley. And Raja Karuth, how about the Alpha Prime Racing driver? Going to go Xfinity Series racing in 2022. He's up to the top 5. This is the first time we've seen him near the front tonight.
Yeah,
this is
done a
worst
nice
case
job.
scenario. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Yeah, but I just want to say, this is worst case scenario. You've got all these cars bunched up here in a pack, and this is when the tube air is the most turbulent, and it's when your car moves around the most. So you really have to be on your, you got to hold a pretty wheel right now.
Kenneth, also of note, let's talk about the man riding the Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages machine tonight. How about Matt Stolneck, who's come from 39th on the grid to P8? He's waiting to make his move, but he's here.
He is, and through all the wrecks, through all the chaos, he's been able to find his way, peek through, get through all the mess, and now he's up through the top 10. I think that's the best place to put yourself in at a track like this, and Matt Stolneck knows what it's like to go super speedway racing. I think we mentioned it many times, his win last season at the Daytona International Speedway, where he went casually 4 wide for the race win at the start-finish line. At 41 definitely knows his positioning on the track, and so far that Crypto Autosport number 41 with the Wyndham Capital colors on board, definitely doing a solid job. He's going to have help here from Justin Malillo, and watch this, outside 3 wide. Here I come.
Also,
one of the things you learn as you run this race, a lot of the guys that are reckless, a lot of the guys with the least amount of experience, they eliminate themselves. And so you really come down to the end of this race with the guys with the most experience, the most knowledge, and the best cars. And I think that's what we're doing here. We're sorting out this bunch of cars here in this pack to see who's got the best car.
Yeah, I think you go back to Stolneck right there. He's a good student of this sport. He's been to the house a few times, and he loves to sit and talk about racing and strategies and things that have happened in the past. So I think he's really paying attention to what's going on in this race about saving his car.
Also,
it's a short race, only 60 laps. It's not that long a race, 100 miles. But I'm going to tell you, there's a lot to be said for taking care of that car and having something to work with when you come down to the final 5 or 10 laps.
Also of note here, DW, Matt Stolneck was one of the handful of drivers in this field that also ran the Road to Glory race that took place just before we went racing here with the Pro Series. So tonight, Stolneck's got more experience with this car and track combo than just about anybody else at the racetrack. How much do you think that might factor into how he approaches the end of this race?
Well, again, I think seat time is seat time. I'm surprised. I thought there would be a lot of Cup drivers, maybe more than normal, because this is a very similar chassis, pull-over kind of car that they're going to race next year in the Cup Series. I would want to get some rack and pinion steering, the whole 9 yards. I would want to get some experience of what these cars feel like on a track like this, particularly at such a high speed. So I'm surprised we didn't see more Cup drivers in this race tonight, but they're probably like me. They're probably sitting on the edge of the seat right now watching something happen.
And something has indeed just happened, as I saw Robbie Lyons in the fence and a few others as well. Yellow flag is out here on lap 56, and it looks like there was some contact just ahead of Lyons. Couldn't quite tell who it was, but we look at the replay, and the guilty party is, no question, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Kenneth Bueno.
Yeah, Junior got stuck in the middle here. You'll watch it as he comes through turn 1. He's getting help from the 60 of Brad Perez, but I think it's a small checkup. He didn't want to get into Preston Partis just in front of him, and then the 8 kind of gets tagged by the 60, checked up a little bit, and the 8 of Junior goes directly into the outside wall. Then also couples in another driver that gets collected in it, the car right behind him, the Valvoline car of Robbie Lyons. You'll see the checkup right there, gets put in that sandwich. And then Robbie Lyons, nowhere to go but the outside wall. Same deal for Dale Earnhardt Jr. And unfortunately for the filter time car, he's pulled it down pit road.
Already has used his fast repair too, so any damage that he has, he'll have to manually repair. And unfortunately, that will likely take Earnhardt out of contention in this race. Lyons, on the other hand, still has his fast repair. You imagine he'll probably use it now, but he's going to have to tiptoe around to make sure that he's in decent shape. Meanwhile, though, we're going to see pit stops here in a little bit. So, Terry Radford, let's throw it down to you. See who does what under this cycle of yellow flag pit stops.
Well, James, I was just talking to drivers, and a lot of people were concerned about fuel. Everybody said we're going to be about 15 laps short to make it to the finish. Everybody's going to come down here and take four Hoosier tires. Man, I almost got confused right under. But everybody's going to pack it full of fuel, and I don't expect to see anybody lift to now. Now it's go time. A lot of the drivers understand that you have to be flat-footed on the bottom of this racetrack to make any track position up. It's going to be interesting to see as all cars are down pit lane.
Everybody coming down pit lane. Biggest question is whether or not this is the kind of pit stop that resets everything or opens up the door for a little bit of strategy. Neil, if you're on top of the box, what's your call here?
I tell you, if I'm down to my last set of tires, I'm almost going to gamble if I'm running in the back, and I'm going to save them. Just because of the fact that I feel like there's going to be more cautious because everybody's going to be jockeying for position. So if I've got a fast repair and a set of tires, I may save them right here and just get fuel only.
I think a couple of things that are happening here, guys. The tires are going to make the cars handle better, and they make them handle through the corners better. More fuel in the back of the car will lower the back of that car down a little bit, get that spoiler out of the air. So we're probably going to see some of the fastest lap times we've seen this whole race over the next 10, 15 laps.
Sounds like, and looks like just off of the data I've got, Gary Sexton might have listened to you, Gil. He's the only one that I can tell took fuel only. I think Dylan Welch may have taken 2 tires, but everybody else in this field in some way, shape, or form with 2 or 4 wanting some form of rubber before we go back to green flag racing. And before we get the restart here in this Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150, we're going to take a moment to bring you tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break. A little bit delayed, but always making sure that we support our good friends at iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in Australian supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. James Bickford, your race leader, ahead of Matt Stolnick, Anthony Alfredo, Garrett Smithley, and Gary Sexton complete the top 5. TJ Majors sits in the 6th spot. 7th belongs to Brad Perez. Justin Malillo is 8th. 9th is where you'll find Stephen Ellis. The newly minted NHRA Funny Car World Champion for 2021, Ron Capps, holds the 10th spot. Kenneth?
Behind them, you'll find Travis Brown Moodhead sitting in P11. P12 will belong to the 63 O'Brien Boris Cook, followed by Kyle Busch, the biggest mover so far, apart from Matt Stolnick, 38th so far, all the way to 13th. 14th will belong to the 44 Raja Carruth. Top 15 will belong to Tim Duggar and his machine. Then you'll find Dylan Welch back in P16. 17th will belong to Colin Fern. 18th for Mark Grabillas. 19th for Preston Pardis. And Robbie Lyons, your defending champion, off of that wreck, got the fast pair. He's back in the top 20.
Adam Cabot is 21st. 22nd belongs to DJ Cummings. Ford Martin holds 23rd at this time. 24th belongs to Ryan Vargas. David Schildhouse runs in 25th. 26th is where you'll find Drew Welker. Case Kellebach sits in the 27th spot. 28th is where you'll find Michael Massey. Bernard Pollard Jr. and Max Kinnon round out the top 30.
And behind them, 31st on back, Stefan Wilson, after going on his roof earlier tonight, will be P31, followed by Brett Baldeck in 32nd. Seth Egger will be 33rd. Cole Irvin, so far, losing that challenge to Bernard Pollard Jr. He's 34th. 35th will belong to Steve Alfont. And it's Will Rogers, Garrett Miller, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Gabe Wood, and Devin Henry, your final full-fledged 40-car field. Dale Earnhardt Jr., Gabe Wood, Devin Henry, all more than a lap down.
And that completes tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break. With over 170,000 drivers on the service and over 90 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is your portal to the racing world. Get on track today at iRacing.com and visit iRacing.com/Black Friday to get a deal on your membership. You want to get the best prices on renewing your subscription to iRacing. 25% off of renewals up to 2 years and 50% off of new memberships. Visit iRacing.com/Black Friday. Sign up today. James Bickford now in control of this, approaching 20 laps to go in this Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150, and we are set to go. 20 laps to go, presented by Tufco Flooring, as Bickford continues to pace this field. Anthony Alfredo in 2nd, Stolnick in 3rd, Smithley in 4th. I have to say, we've got 2 Cup drivers in the top 4 DW, so to the point that you made, given the experience you could get with this thing, it seems like the ones that are in this race may have hurt you.
Well, I think what a Cup driver, they don't panic. You know, it's a 60-lap race. They're not going to worry about where they are so much, about 10 to go. And I think you'll see like Kyle Busch and others that will work their way by some of these cars, and they'll be right there fighting for the win when this thing is over with. So those guys are smart. They know what they're doing. They know how to take care of their car. They know how to stay out of trouble, and they know when it's time to go.
Good look here at Kyle Busch, two-time Cup Series champion, has used his faster pair, but also in the top 10. Got some room here. Any words you're giving to anybody here in the top 10, Gil, if you're on top of the box trying to set yourself up, put yourself in the right spot to maybe make a run for the checkered flag?
I'm just trying to say, look who you're racing with. Make certain that there are guys that can go to the front and that they're not going to make some out of the ballpark moves. Just because Kyle Busch is sitting there, he's got in a little trouble early, but he's been able to work his way into the top 10. If I'm got a guy running behind him, especially a young driver, I'm telling him to follow him because he's going to get his way to the front.
And a young driver that is following him, somebody who I bet certainly would not mind a few lessons, Raja Karuth, going Xfinity Series racing with Alpha Prime Racing in the 44 in 2022. Here's a look here at Travis Brown. He's just ahead of Kyle Busch, the creator of Moon Car on Moonhead. You head to twitch.tv/Moonhead. You can hear him talk about some green flags, and so on and so forth. But the man out of Rome, Georgia, alongside Kyle Busch, both racing for the final spots in 9th and 10th. Other thing I noticed here, just looking at the front of this group, Kenneth Bueno, I think this is a spread out as we've seen most of the leaders just about all night.
It is, and I'm kind of caught by surprise too. I would expect everybody to just kind of accordion back in, especially given the fact that it's the final 16 laps of this race. I think to mention it, you got to start going. It's the final laps. If you want to get yourself to the front, now's your opportunity to do it. But at this point, we're seeing top 4 spread around. Then you see a second group of about a handful of cars, and a third group, a fourth group all the way to the rear of the field. So indeed, this is the most separation we've had all night. That doesn't mean it's separated for the race lead, but for everybody else behind, they either got to hope for a yellow or something drastic to happen as Bickford gets turned in the front of the field, hard into the outside wall. Guess that was what they were waiting for. Caution flag waves again.
Garrett Smithley just turned James Bickford for the race lead in front of the entire field on the front straightaway. And as we get to 15 laps to go, Bickford smacks the fence, and that could have been way, way worse, DW. I think we should be thankful there was really only one car involved in that.
Yeah, well, it's a big wide racetrack. The trouble too here is got a lot of room to maneuver around, and you can get in trouble and not necessarily take out half the field like you do off turn 2 over there. So, yeah, we're lucky. We only lost maybe a car or two.
Well, the problem is they're trying to bump draft that on that flat of the apron, and as the car comes back up onto the track, where the bumpers aren't lining up, and there was no way he was going to hang on right there.
No, he just lifts the nose of the car goes under the back of the car that they're running behind, and it just lifts them off the ground and turns them into the fence. So maybe they don't know that, maybe they don't have enough experience to realize that, but that's really what's happening.
I've talked before, the iRacing has come such a long way. The only thing they need now is a shock collar. We need some consequences. The amount of G's that you hit the wall with, you need to get that intensity of a shock. And then it'll make these guys think a lot.
I have a feeling there are a few people that have the technology to build rigs that would allow you to feel that. We saw Jordan Taylor go over at Monza and have his whole rig fall out from underneath him when he smacked the wall on Easter Day last year. But for now, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with more coverage of the Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150. You're watching Podium eSports coverage of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Rowdy Energy from iRacing's virtual Michigan International Speedway.
Howdy, I'm Ashley, and this is my partner Frankie. There's no better time than right now to purchase a home or refinance your current mortgage. My company, Wyndham Capital, has amazing rates and a seamless process to get your loan across the finish line. Give me a shout for all of your mortgage needs.
Welcome back to Podium eSports coverage of the Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150 for the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Rowdy Energy from iRacing's virtual Michigan International Speedway. James Pike here alongside Kenneth Bueno, Darrell Waltrip, Gil Martin, and Terry Radford bringing you all the action from all around the racetrack. Remind you that tonight's broadcast is brought to you by our friends at Battle Beaver. Battle Beaver has everything you need for your next custom controller, console, or PC skin. With options for PlayStation, Xbox, GameCube, and more, Battle Beaver has everything you need to make your system look exactly the way you want it. Head to BattleBeaverCustoms.com to pick up your next skin today. Terry Radford, let's bring you in here because you got the chance to chat with Anthony Alfredo recently. Lost maybe amongst those replays in the most recent incident is that he hit the wall, and without a fast repair, that damage is going to sit for the rest of this race. How is that damage going to affect his car?
Well, I went down and talked to him, and he said, Terry, don't worry. I'm winning the race. I'm going to be aggressive. It's going to be fun. He gave me two amazing quotes. One of them was boots to booty cheeks. And that one right there is important because he doesn't care who's in front of him. He's going to move it. He doesn't care. Checkers or wreckers. And the second one, he realized we're in the Motor City, and he says it's time to rock out in the Rock City, to quote my favorite Kiss song. So Old Fast Pasta has got some really good showing to do.
How about that for a musical reference? I don't know if we've ever done a Kiss musical reference. I'm not sure if we have or haven't, but I do like the idea of talking about Detroit Rock City. As we remind you that tonight's broadcast is also brought to you by Maconi Setup Shop, which will be hosting the inaugural Saturday for the Boys charity event benefiting the Movember Foundation on Saturday, November 27th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Movember Foundation works to bring awareness and help fundraise for treatment for men's issues such as mental health, cancer, suicides, all things on the more mental side of things. Signups are available at the link in chat if you're watching on our Twitch channel by using the command !MO or scanning the QR code that you see on your screen now. It's a $10 donation to the Movember campaign to enter, and you can donate more if you wish. We'll see you for 100 laps of truck racing for an amazing cause on Saturday, November 27th at 9 p.m. Eastern. If you want your next iRacing setup, head over to MaconiSetupShop.com today to pick up packages, pick up setups for all kinds of cars on the service, and enjoy your next victory. Maconi Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories. Big green egg, green flag back in the air. Now close to 12 laps to go. Alfredo's got the damage. Can he hang on? That's the biggest question, as Garrett Smithley immediately tried to go to the outside and nearly ran right over Anthony Alfredo, Kenneth.
He almost did, and Garrett Smithley now is going to suffer the consequences because here comes Stolnick, and look at Kyle Busch inside 3 wide. They're about to make contact. That was Brad Perez in the middle. They're all over the place. Everybody able to save it, but they're about 4 back to turn 3.
Alfredo does not have the speed to keep up at the front. Kyle Busch took advantage of the hole that opened underneath and got to the race lead. Matt Stolnick riding along with the title partner for the race, Ashleigh Kirsch, up to second. Brad Perez to third. Smithley to fourth, and Rajah Caruth now in the top 5 as they're 4 wide back where Anthony Alfredo is.
Hey, Gil, did you know that Kyle Busch was in this race?
He sat back and just watched everything going on. Like I said, if I had a young driver, I'd have him right on his tail.
I'm telling you.
I think his Rowdy energy drink just kicked in.
I think it was time released, and I think it's just, you're right. I think it's working.
Control of all this, DW. Do you like where he's sitting right now? At this point, is this the time where you want to be leading this thing from the front?
Look, anytime Kyle Busch has got the lead, it's going to be hard to get away from him. And he'll block, and he'll do whatever he's got to do to keep that lead. And I wouldn't want to have to try to pass him, I can tell you that. Always reminds me of trying to pass Dale Earnhardt. That wasn't the easiest thing in the world to do.
How wide can he make this car? There's Gary Sexton out of Pennsylvania that we're right on board with. He loses momentum on the inside. Meanwhile, Matt Stolnick trying to hip check Brad Perez to get to second. Rajah Caruth trying to figure out who he wants to go with, Kenneth. And there goes a big move from Garrett Smithley to the inside.
But what about all these guys that are behind Kyle Busch, though? Don't you know that you're just saying, are you kidding me? We've been up here fighting for the lead all night long, and this cat comes and steals and drives off to leave us in the dust. What the heck is going on?
It's not done just yet, and there are people that have been able to get runs, but for the moment, everybody's still chasing Kyle Busch inside of 10 laps to go. Stallneck down to the bottom, Perez up top, and that's TJ Majors on the inside, just underneath the purple machine of Garrett Smithley. Majors, we've not seen much higher than 10th all night, KB, but look at him now to the inside, fighting for a spot in the top 5.
This is what you got to do here at Michigan. I mentioned that everybody was separated. If you wanted to make a move for the race win, now is the time. Well, now is the time. 8 laps to go here this time, and TJ Majors still lurking to the bottom, but still no defense here. Garrett Smithley is holding out hope on that middle lane, and he's going to give a lovely shove here to the 41 of Matt Stallneck. Maybe give him some extra momentum. They just can't make contact back to turn 1. This time, about 7 left.
Gil, if you're
TJ Majors has told a lot of guys how to win races. Let's see if he can follow his own advice and see what he can do.
He's spotted plenty to the win as Justin Malillo goes around in the middle of the back straightaway. In trouble, and everybody behind him. That may have been the biggest wreck of the night. I dare say, DW, that almost had shades of the 2002 Aaron's 312 at Talladega, where Harvick and everybody wrecked, and there were about maybe 5 cars that made it through it. There were not that many cars that came through that wreck clean.
Oh, there wasn't. And what I love is that guy out front. I mean, he knew that that's what was going to happen, and he knew he was in the right place at the right time.
I wish they could have gone a couple more laps, because it was interesting what Kyle was doing out front. He was able to run by himself in the front because of the way he was entering the corner. He was entering high, taking the air off the 2 cars behind him, and he going to the bottom. They were running side by side, but he would get a run through the center by doing that.
It's the experience he has, Gil. He knows that he runs that line that he runs in his cup car, and he goes in there and he swings that thing. He's in there a little high, but he uses the banking of the track to really pick up momentum and speed, and that's why he's able to keep the lead.
Yeah, you're right.
We were going to get the chance to touch on that. That's where I was going right before that wreck happened. Plenty of looks here. Here's Bernard Pollard just snaking his way through this. And you want to talk about some of the drivers who have benefited from riding in the back. Bernard's been somewhere about 30th all race long. Waited. Not only does he have a clean race car and a spot near the top 10, but guys, he's still got a fast repair. So even if his car gets dinged up, he's still got a chance to get it fixed up and maybe go win this thing.
Hey, if you have a fast repair and you haven't used it, can you come in and do something? And what could you do? Could you use it to make
No, Darrell, you can't lay the spoiler down.
Oh, come on, man. I got to work on this thing.
You can try something, but no, you maybe throw fresh tires on it, but not much beyond that. Meanwhile, Terry Radford, take us through what some of the drivers saw in that most recent yellow.
Man, I'm going to tell you right now, I asked Justin Malillo on a scale to 1 to Ked Rock, how mad are you? And he said full-blown Ked Rock. So he's pretty barracuda. And then you got other drivers that are involved in this. Colin Fern, he was not too excited. He said, man, we've been running good all race, minding our own business. Just wanted to be there at the end, couldn't get there at the end. It's a tough break for a lot of these drivers, but a lot of them are a little upset. Rightfully so. A bunch of good cars, a host of them out of this race, with only a few of them having fast repairs.
Everybody's already burned their fast repairs up in most cases. Just looking through the field, amongst the drivers that have not used a fast repair yet, we'll go down the list and take you through each and every one of them. Matt Stallneck, Garrett Smithley, Rasha Caruth, all in the top 5. Ford Martin running in 11th. Case Cullenbach in 16th. Bernard Pollard Jr. now in 18th. Drew Welker, Ron Capps, Mark Rabilis, 22nd through 24th. Michael Massey back in 31st, and then Devin Henry, who's many laps down. So he just hanging out on pit road. But you think about that, that's maybe what, 10 drivers at best out of this 40 or somewhere in the ballpark of that have the ability to repair their cars if they get in another wreck here.
What I'm laughing about is, Gil, what do you think Ford's saying? He's sitting 11th. He's going to cut. If he gets in the top 10, we'll never hear the end of it after what he's been through tonight.
No, I'll never hear the end of it, because I've been whipping him with a whip all night long, thinking, come on, man, don't embarrass me like this. Get up front.
He could. Green is going to come out next time. We might be able to get another word with Ford here if we get another yellow flag. But for now, if you're Kyle Busch, Gil, you've got a great mind, but for the most part, then What do we want to see happen here? We'll find out later. But for now, let's make sure that we remind everybody that we've got a giveaway courtesy of our friends at Rowdy Energy that we're going to send off. 12-pack of Rowdy Energy that we're going to give, and we're going to send off. And it is Tyler Powers at Into Fire Gaming that is the winner of our 12-pack this week. So congratulations to Tyler. Another reminder that tonight's broadcast is brought to you by our friends at BOOSTED.BIZ, which builds a custom platform for your brand to sell your products. They take care of everything, so pay nothing up front and let them handle the rest. To get started with your brand's online store, visit BOOSTED.BIZ today.
Kyle Busch doesn't care what happens as long as it's behind him.
That's exactly right.
Would think so here as we get set for the restart coming your way with 4 laps to go. Big green egg, green flag going to come out in the air, and we will see whether or not Kyle Busch has the ability to control this field from the front. It's something he talked about wanting to do last week at Las Vegas. He didn't have the opportunity to restart in P1. Here he is now as the big green egg, green flag comes back out, and now he's got control of this and got away well. Everybody was sort of squirrely behind him, so Brad Perez and Matt Stolnick are left to fight for second as they try and wreck immediately into turn 1. That was TJ Majors who went sideways, but it's Perez, Stolnick, Smithley all trying to chase down Kyle Busch for the race lead. Kenneth?
They come out of turn 2. Now they're 3 wide for second. That is definitely not going to help the chase to Kyle Busch, but they're wrecking back on the back straightaway. Huge tumble out of Brad Perez, even more so for James Bickford, and it's a big one with 4 laps to go. You got to reckon, James, that was probably going to happen with how aggressive everybody was. Wilson continues to tumble, and it comes to full fruition in the final laps. Kyle Busch, lucky to escape that. Just like you guys said, Darrell and Gil, he wanted it to happen behind him. He's good that it happened behind him. He's not involved.
Hey, he's looking in the mirror right there, knowing he's out front on his own. And when he switches lanes right here, he disrupts the air enough that those guys just lost control running 3 wide. So he's got control of it just like he wants.
Yeah. No, you're right, Gil. Kyle didn't have anything to do with that. He was not anywhere near it, but he caused it.
Exactly.
He changed lanes, the air off his car caused the car on the outside to get in the fence, and that's what started. Watch right here. He will change lanes, move up, and when he does, the car behind him, it just puts him in the wall. And it's all arrow.
It's so tough to steer these things, and we've seen that all night, DW. The drivers have had trouble getting off of turn 2 and getting the car to rotate on corner exit. That, I think, is exactly what happened. And then you saw the chain reaction. Looks like Stolnick bounced off of, well, actually, no, it was Smithley who bounced off of Perez, and then they touched again, sent Stolnick to the fence. All 3 of the cars running behind Kyle Busch, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, all caught up in that. Will Rogers caught up in that, a whole host of people in the back. And what that means is we're going to end up with a completely different cast of drivers in the top 5 for what could be the final restart as we look to potentially take our first green-white checker.
That's pretty optimistic. One more restart? I'm not sure about that.
I'm not making any bets here. We're not in Vegas this week, so I don't feel like I'm liable for trying to play odds maker here. That's what the M&R bet people do, not my job. But for now, Gil, let's go to you first. What do you do if you're a Preston Pardus, a Gary Sexton, Will Rogers, any of these guys who now have the opportunity to go up and fight Kyle Busch for the win? What's your strategy, and what are you telling them if you're crew chief in one of those?
It's pretty obvious right now. You don't want to be in the middle. So you need to pick a lane, and you either need to get low or try to stay high, because the guy in the middle seems to lose control pretty easily right now. So I'm telling my driver to get on the bottom.
And DW, from a driver's perspective, what are you thinking?
I would follow that 51 car. That would be my, right now I just pray I can finish second. Let me get behind that 51 car and finish second. That's what I would pray.
Exactly right, because Kyle's going to be watching the mirror right now, and he's going to drive those guys in the fence right behind him.
Oh yeah, he sees, he's a smart guy. He really is a smart driver. He knows what to do, and he knows how to do it, and we just saw the results of some of those moves.
I think
he didn't do anything wrong.
It's also worth noting here in this that the last time we were here in an off-season race for Monday Night Racing using the super late models at Michigan, the winner of that race, Preston Pardus. The guy running in second and the guy starting to Kyle Busch's outside on this restart, Preston Pardus. Coincidence? Maybe, but I feel like we have to say something about that there, because it suggests to me that P-Money has an ability to just set himself up and find the right place to be when it comes to racing for the checkered flag here.
He's in the right place. He's behind Kyle Busch. Stay behind Kyle Busch.
Well, that's what it's going to take, because Kyle is going to get a good start right here again. And on a green-white checker, it's been taking him about a lap and a half to get back to the leader. So if he gets strung out again and those guys get 3 wide behind him, he's going to be hard. They're going to be hard to catch him.
A reminder of the overtime rules here is we're going to get our big green egg, green flag, our first green-white checker attempt in this Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150 at iRacing's virtual International Michigan Speedway. If we get the yellow before we get the white flag, we will go under yellow, we will reset the field, line them up, and we'll do it again, potentially as many as 3 times here. This will be attempt number 1 of 3. If we get the white flag before we get a yellow flag or any sort of other flag, then we are racing back to the line, and the race will end on that restart. So if we get the white flag, we're racing back to the checker. We'll just have to see how nutty it does or doesn't get. Kyle Busch is your leader here on this restart. Preston Pardus to his outside. Gary Sexton just behind him. Will Rogers on the outside of row 2. Max Kinnon restarting in the 5th spot. Ford Martin, even with the dinged up race car a little bit there, still has to use his faster pair, running in the top 10 in 6th. So not a bad run with Dad's Watchful Eye hanging out at the top of the booth. But time to settle all the action on the track. Pace car off, green flag out, big green egg, green flag. One more time here from Michigan, and Kyle Busch got an incredible jump. Kenneth Cueto clear by 4, making 5 car lengths before they make it to turn 1.
He did indeed, but the problem is how the draft is going to come back to bite him. There were 3 wide at the moment of that last yellow, so that did help Busch a little bit, but if Gary, if Pardus, if Rogers are able to single file themselves out, it's going to be trouble for that Rowdy Energy Toyota Camry. Back to the back straightaway for turn 3. Busch now starting to get reeled in. Car goes around to the inside, but no yellow.
No yellows yet. They're hanging out, waiting to see what happens. Kyle Busch a little high on the exit of turn 4, but they'll come back. White flag will hit here if they make it across the line. There's the Maconi setup shop, 1 to go. So this is the last lap of the Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150, and Kyle Busch is still clear, but he's got Chargers now. Gary Sexton and Preston Pardus coming, Kenneth.
They're coming back in it for 1 and 2, and now this is what they wanted. Single file back outside to the back straightaway. They've got an opportunity here on Kyle. Kyle's going to block to the inside. Gary's going to try and follow. They're going to move to turn 3 for the final time, James. Sexton going to lose power to the bottom, but it's Busch all alone in the front.
It is all Kyle Busch, all by himself, clear by 2 or 3 car lengths. And how about the masterclass from Rowdy on how to hold the field at bay in the final 10 laps of this race as Kyle Busch comes across the line to win the Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150 and pick up his first win in Season 4 of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Rowdy Energy. DW, he was disappointed in finishing 2nd last week at his hometown track in Las Vegas, but gets the win tonight. I think that might not atone for everything, but he'll be happy picking up a duck of their checkered flag.
Look, in his world, 2nd place is first loser. I mean, that's just the way he is. If he doesn't win, he's not happy. So he ought to be real happy right now. That's a great job. He and his team did an amazing job and pulled off the win, and his strategy was great. The car was good. He drove the wheels off of it. Great win.
Yeah, I think he learned a lot by starting in the back. He realized that the fact that the car out front could really control the row behind him, and he picked up on that quick, because every time he changed lanes, he would disrupt that 2nd row to the fact where they couldn't get to him.
He did.
Here is tonight's Martin Sports winning moment for Kyle Busch. Founded by Scott Martin nearly 10 years ago in the frozen region of Michigan's Upper Peninsula, Martin Sports strives for the best custom apparel for your needs. Whether you need shirts for your office, jerseys for a local sports team, or specially designed apparel for your sim racing team, Martin Sports has you covered. Along with shirts and other team wear, they also have gloves specifically crafted for sim racing that are lightweight, breathable, and complete with padded leather palms. Use the code PODIUM to receive 40% off any in-stock racing glove at martinsports906.com, and you can also find them by visiting their Facebook page at facebook.com/martinsports. We'll take a quick break here on Podium eSports, and then we'll be back with the post-race show. Kyle Busch goes to victory lane at Michigan. We'll talk with him and the other top finishers of the Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150 in just a few moments as Podium eSports covers the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Rowdy Energy from iRacing's virtual Michigan International Speedway continues. When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that Maconi Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Five Flag Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at Maconi Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, Maconi Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to MaconiSetupShop.com and learn why Maconi Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing. And remember, at Maconi Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Howdy, I'm Ashley, and this is my partner Frankie. There's no better time than right now to purchase a home or refinance your current mortgage. My company, Wyndham Capital, has amazing rates and a seamless process to get your loan across the finish line. Give me a shout for all of your mortgage needs.
Welcome back to Podium eSports coverage of the Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150 from iRacing's virtual Michigan International Speedway. Race number 3 and season number 4 of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Rowdy Energy looks like this. Kyle Busch for Kyle Busch Motorsports, your race winner. First time he picks up a checkered flag in season 4 ahead of Preston Pardish, who almost defended his race win from the last time we took the super late models to Michigan. Will Rogers makes it 2 cars to the podium for Space Station Gaming. Max Kennan brought it home in 4th. David Schildhouse finished in the 5th position. 6th went to Ford Martin, season's best finish for him. Brett Baldock with the season's best as well in 7th. Same for Case Callenbach in 8th and Ryan Vargas in 9th. And how about the 10 car? DJ Cummings for Crypto Autosport brings it home in the top 10, Kenneth.
I believe another Crypto Autosport car remains just behind DJ Cummings in 11th. Mark Rabilis comes home with that 99 machine. Stephen Ellis will be behind him in P12. Colin Fern, the winner from last week, not able to duplicate. He's going to finish in 13th tonight with Travis Brown. Moonhead coming home in P14. Adam Cabot, the Esports Racing League champion, will round out your top 15. Bernard Pollard Jr. is going to walk away the winner of the 1v1 versus Cole Irvin. He comes home P16. Raja Karuth will finish in P17 with Robbie Lyons back to 18th. Anthony Alfredo, some struggles late. He ends up in 19th. And Tim Duggar James rounds out your top 20.
It's going to be a fun one for Pollard and Irvin and Pollard going back and forth on Twitter all week long. And then Pollard gets the victory at his head-to-head, as did Will Rogers, who beat out Ryan Vargas. So those two, your winners of your first one-on-one challenges. You're going to see that reappear all throughout the MNR season. Justin Malillo finishes 21st after starting on pole. Matt Stolnick had a car that was capable of challenging for the win. Got caught up in a wreck late. He comes home 22nd. Same story for Garrett Smithley, who was 23rd. Ron Katz, 24th for 28th. But still a 2-time funny car world champion in NHRA. So all in all, a good weekend for him. The front stretch motorsports drivers, Michael Massey and Drew Walker in 25th and 26th. Seth Eggert for Racing Reporters eRacing comes home 27th. Brian Boris Cook for Joe Gibbs Racing in 28th. 29th to Garrett Miller. And Dylan Welch finished in the 30th position.
And behind them, Gabe Wood, who got back to the lead lap in the final laps, was laughing over the radio. He ends up with that JD Motor eSports machine in 31st. Stefan Wilson, who went tumbling multiple times tonight, he'll come home in 32nd. James Bickford for Charlotte Phoenix Esports will come home 33rd. Gary Sexton, who ran out of fuel on the very last lap, heartbreaking for him as he finishes 34th. And top 35 will go to Cole Irvin, Steve Alfont, Brad Perez, TJ Majors, Devin Henry, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. will cap off the full 40-car field here tonight. James from Michigan.
There's your full field rundown for this Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150. And now we'll turn it over to Darrell Waltrip, who's with our race winner for the first time in Season 4, Kyle Busch in Victory Lane.
Hey, Kyle, it's DW. Congratulations, buddy. You just drove a heck of a great race. Tell us about your strategy. I thought it was you planned the race out perfectly.
Yeah, we played it well to what we needed there. Obviously, just being able to have a strong run, and early on we kind of got run into a couple times and messed up a little bit. And I thought we were going to have to use our fresh car, our one reset there too early, but it all worked out. And there towards the end, just being able to have an awesome restart that one time. I think we went from 8th to the lead by the time we got to 3, and that saved our race right there. That made the move of the day, so that got us the lead, and then we were able to control it after that.
Kyle, do you think, your experience, you know this racetrack, you've run a lot of laps around this joint. Do you think that paid off tonight? Was that a part of what helped you win this race, you think?
Yeah, definitely running laps at Michigan. This is the old Michigan surface, not the new Michigan surface, which I enjoyed the old Michigan surface anyways. But for some reason with these cars, they're just so radically different than anything that we drive or I've driven. Super late models, that's what I grew up driving, obviously. But running them at Michigan is not similar to anything I've ever done. So that was certainly new, and just trying to figure that out and what the little different tricks of the trade were. I didn't even get any practice laps. I literally pulled on to the sim 3 minutes before qualifying was over, got about 2 laps, and then learned everything in the race. So great outcome for the Rowdy Energy Toyota Camry, and it was cool. That was fun.
Kyle, do you think this kind of car with the coilovers and everything, will this help you transition into the new car for next year? Is there any comparison between the two, or can you relate anything to this car that will help you on the next year car?
Yes and no. The coilover aspect maybe, but I think everything else is so vastly different that I don't know if you'll really be able to tell that you're on coilovers. You've got independent rear, you've got the gearbox in the back now, and what's weird too about the front end suspension, the way the front coilovers are attached, they're attached to the lower ball joint right at the spindle. They're not on the lower A-frame. So when you turn the wheel, that raises the car, and when you turn the wheel the other way, that raises the car the other way without through the shock and spring. And so that's going to be way different, I think, than anything we've all worked on before. So that's for all the engineers to kind of figure out.
Yeah, well, look, there are a lot of great drivers in Cup, you know that, just like I do. But none of them have the talent you have. You're one of the best I've ever seen. Congratulations on a great win tonight. I was very impressed. We didn't mention your name probably for 2/3 of that race, and all of a sudden, where'd he come from? So great win for you and the team tonight. Congratulations, buddy.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it, Darrell. It's good to talk with you again. And thanks to Ford and all the guys at Monday Night Racing and presented by Rowdy Energy. That was definitely not a fluke. Nobody paid for that one, baby. We won that one fair and square. So, to come home ahead of some of the series veterans, Preston, Will, Max, Ford obviously there in the top 10 as well too. That was pretty cool. So good day. Thanks, man. And we'll see you all on the next go round.
All right, pal.
Kyle Busch, P1 tonight at Michigan, P2, P Money. Preston Partis will, break the P theme and slide to Mr. G-Man himself. Gil Martin is with our runner-up finisher.
Hey, Preston, this is Gil Martin. I got a couple questions for you. One, congratulations on that great runner-up finish, and I know you wanted to defend your last win the last time the Super Lates were there in Michigan, but how much did Kyle control the second row with the air, with y'all running side by side and him alone in the front of you?
Yeah, he did a great job at that, Gil. I think that restart of his really helped out. He was able to get 2 or 3 cars there, and it kind of forced me and Gary to be side by side, and like you said, he kind of just played the air to perfection and kind of stalled us both out. Really, we couldn't get to him.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing to watch that he could control that second row so much by that high corner entry, then coming low, that it seemed like it jockeyed you guys around a lot where you couldn't get to him.
No, exactly. Like you said, too, it kept us side by side. Once he seen one car get ahead, he kind of went down and stalled the other car out and allowed us to stay side by side. And really, I don't think there was any catching them unless one of us broke free from each other and could kind of go one-on-one with them there.
Exactly. How much experience have you had in super late model cars?
Not too much. The only oval experience I had is the Xfinity Series at Martinsville a few weeks back, so it's not too much, but on the game we got quite a bit.
Right, I didn't know about that. And know how much different in the sim do these cars drive than the other cars you've been driving?
It's not too bad. It's kind of like a stock car almost when you put them on a big track like this. I feel like just with how the rolling speed is and stuff like that, and then you got a little bit of aero and stuff to play with. So it might be a short track car, but when you put it on a track like this, I feel like it handles like a stock car.
Well, good. Well, congratulations on that great run tonight, and look forward to seeing you the rest of the season.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. You guys have a good night.
You know that he is going to be a major threat next week when we hit his bread and butter. MX-5 Cup cars, Mazdas, Miatas at the road course at Daytona International Speedway. Watch out for Preston Pardus. That P2 could become P1 very easily next week as we turn our attention to another driver who's going to be in the mix just as quick. It was right there the last time we ran the MX-5 Cup cars, Will Rogers. We'll worry about that race in a little bit, but for now, this race, Will, I think to me, from your perspective, it seemed a lot about just sort of waiting for the right time to make the move. Did you have a sense that you might wanted to be, maybe back half of the top 10 in the ballpark of about 20 laps to go, figuring that something like what happened between Stolnick and Perez and Smithley may pan out and you might get a few spots and, might get yourself in the top 5 in the final restart?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You're always thinking that they're going to wad it up for sure. And it's coming. It's just a matter of when and where you are. But at the same time, you want to be up front mixing it up just in case it happens behind you and then, catch a break, right? So it's always really hard to say, especially in these races where they're so tight together. These super lates at Michigan, man, I could tell you this is some really tough racing because you have to rely on what is, I think, such a small opportunity for draft. Like you got to do it the right way and make sure that you carry that momentum around each end of this place just perfectly without burning off the right front. And if you could do it, you could be successful. I didn't do that all night, so I have no idea how the heck I ended up third. But I stuck with my guy up on the roof, Leighton Sabile, GMS Racing's #1 employee. He helped me out tonight spotting, and big thanks to him for guiding me through it. We actually had a penalty coming off pit road earlier in the race, and I thought the night was done. Especially after we used our quick repair up. But hey, ended up towards the front because they wadded it up, and here we are, P3. Best Monday night racing finish in a long time.
A long, long time. I think most people haven't forgotten, though, that you are a former series champion. You do have that in your back pocket. But more importantly, let's start talking about next week at Daytona with the MX-5 cars. We know how much you love road racing on this. We know how much you and Preston love going at each other for wins in those cars. How excited are you to get to our first road course race of this season?
Oh, man, I'm stoked. The MX-5s on this game are super fun, especially when you get a bunch of guys like me and Preston and Brad Perez and Ryan Vargas, and you throw Kyle and these other guys in there. I think it's going to be a rowdy show for sure, no pun intended. But it'll be a fun time. I'm expecting my teammate Preston Pardus P Money to take the dub because he is the 4-time National Series Spec Miata champion. So he's got the leg up on us, but yeah, man, super excited for it. I think it'll be a good show. Hopefully we stick together. We battle towards the end. Don't get strung out.
What do we need to do to make sure that we get a 4-wide finish with those cars the same way they did in real life back in January?
I don't think you have to do anything. I think it's just going to happen naturally. Knowing this series, knowing how competitive we all are, and most of the field's pretty darn good with racecraft. Obviously, mistakes happen, but for the most part, everybody races pretty darn good. And I'd say most of us have the idea of how to make that happen on the last lap coming to the checkers. So you'll probably see something like that.
Should be a lot of fun to watch, no question. Well, congratulations on your podium finish tonight, and thanks as always for taking the time to chat with us.
Yeah, thank you, and happy birthday to Ryan Bauer. Really appreciate it, and of course, really have to thank my Space Station Gaming team, Jake Fisher, Gabe Herschel, all those guys, Timmy Pacioli, and then of course our Coke drivers and Road to Pro drivers. Really appreciate them being part of our program and taking it to where it's going. And yeah, looking forward to next week. Appreciate it, guys.
Well, Rogers comes home P3, and that means we'll start working around our way to final thoughts. First to you, Kenneth Bueno. Tonight, I feel like this was just a masterclass in Kyle Busch using all the experience that he's had to line things up.
Definitely was. I mean, Kyle Busch, he's a NASCAR Cup champion for a reason. There's a reason he's a big staple race car driver in real life. He knows how to do it in the real life world and then, of course, in the sim as well. So a fantastic job by Busch to hold off the field. But, I mean, what a start to the season. First 3 rounds, it's now 3 different winners. It took us to round 4, James, to have a third different winner. Took us only 3 this time around. So that means it's going to be a lot of fun for the playoffs in a couple of weeks' time. And next week we go to road course racing, I think, with the Mazda Miata cars. I mean, those are a blast to drive. Those are a blast to run around in a race setting. So, I mean, next week, just prepare for a lot of guys to put it all on the line and probably have some fun as well.
Gil, for your first final words here, we brought in another special guest, per se. So how'd your son do tonight? What'd you think of it?
He did pretty good tonight. That's the best he's done all year long. But I tell you, this was a lot of fun right here, especially to sit and watch this deal to how far you guys have come in the last 4 seasons. Because obviously, I've had a pretty special seat watching this, and just the professionalism that you guys have put into this show, and everything that's happened in it through the announcers that you've had, and for the participants and the sponsors. It's just my hat's off to you. You've done a great job, and I'd love to come back.
Ford, any response to your dad there? You defended the family name well, you think?
I think we did. I think we did really well tonight. We did exactly what we did. But yeah,
he's still pretty nervous. He's not used to running that close to the front right there.
He's going to stay in that car for. He probably won't get out of that car tonight. He'll be out of it maybe tomorrow sometime.
Hey, Daryl, what did I tell you? I told you, just wait. Y'all were talking about how I was at the rear. I made a mistake. Hey, good drivers find their way to the front. And that's what we did tonight. But I don't know. Maybe it's a blind squirrel catches a nut every once in a while. I don't know. But it was a great run tonight. Glad to support Fox Sports and the Fox Sports app. Be sure to download the Fox Sports app, get it, use it, love it. So we got to get our sponsor plug in there for us. But we're actually here at the Fox Sports studios and run the Fox Sports car and get a top 10. So we did all my coworkers well, but it was a good race tonight. It was a lot of fun and it was exciting. I hope the fans enjoyed it. So we're looking forward to going to run some road course racing next week at Daytona.
Hey, you'll be the first one to work in the morning. I know.
Well, I don't know about that, DW. This is about wearing me out right here. I'm looking at my Apple Watch here, and I think I burned a lot of calories just sweating on that last restart, being that close to the front.
DW, I know you sound like you've had a ton of fun tonight. How much have you enjoyed coming back on the broadcast here?
Yeah, it's these races. I was not familiar with this kind of racing. I'm a see it, feel it, touch it kind of a driver. I've never really participated in a lot of these kind of iRaces, and it's so much fun and it's intriguing. It's so intriguing to me because, first of all, you got to have a guy like Kyle Busch in the field. You got to have somebody like that for all these other guys to learn from. I mean, we didn't talk about Kyle Busch the whole race. 10, 15, 20 laps to go, all of a sudden he's leading. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. You can't all run that kind of race. I understand that. But I think a lot of these guys learned a lot by watching Kyle Busch. Dale Earnhardt Jr., having him in the field. Other Cup drivers, they know the tracks. They understand the cars. And you can learn so much from him. So congratulations to Kyle, a great win for him. And to Ford and for everybody that was participating in the telecast tonight. I had a ball. I mean, I really felt like I was at the track. And here I am sitting in my back room. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. Enjoyed it, and I look forward to doing it again.
The traffic won't be so bad on the way home, Daryl.
No. I think I can make it upstairs okay.
Probably not a bad thing, but I have to say, guys, as much as you enjoyed tonight's race, if you want to know what to expect for next week when we take the MX-5s to Daytona, for anyone who's not had the chance to go onto Track Pass and go watch the replays of the Mazda MX-5 Cup season from 2021, it had genuinely some of the best racing in the country out of any series, bar none. No less than, I think, half their races, they were door-to-door coming to the line. Had the great coverage from John Hindhaugh, Shay Adam, all the folks at Radio Show Limited who brought that to us week in, week out. I had the chance to see the finale in close in person at Petit Le Mans Road Atlanta this past weekend. It was just as good as advertised there, and we could see these drivers go 4 wide to the line next week. It could be Will Rogers. It could be Preston Partis. It could be Brad Perez. It could be somebody else. We don't know. But it should be incredibly fun to watch when we take the Mazda MX-5 Cup cars to the road course at Daytona International Speedway. That's our next broadcast in Monday Night Racing. You'll see the Road to Glory presented by Tufco Flooring at 7 p.m. next Monday night, November 22nd on twitch.tv/Podium eSports. And then the main show, the Pro Series presented by Rowdy Energy at 8 p.m. on twitch.tv/Podium 2, the Podium YouTube and Facebook pages, and the Monday Night Racing Twitter. Before we get to that race, though, some other events to tell you about coming up in the world of Podium eSports. Our coverage continues tomorrow night with the eNASCAR Contender iRacing Series. Round 3 of the chase to find the last 20 drivers in the next year's Coke Series field heads to Auto Club Speedway. Our broadcast will begin at 9 p.m. tomorrow night on the iRacing Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube channels. Then you've got Rallycross presented by Yokohama, the iRacing Rallycross Championship race from Charlotte Motor Speedway coming your way November 17th, Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern in the afternoon here in the United States on iRacing's Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube channels before the championship for the iRacing Force Dynamics Delara Grand Prix World Championship. Our own Kenneth Bueno going to be on the call for that from the Hungaroring. That comes your way Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern on iRacing's Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. You've also got PCA Sim Racing from Interlagos down in Brazil coming your way Wednesday and Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern on the iRacing live portal at iRacing.com/prime. And then the SimMax Cup Series powered by MPI from Charlotte Motor Speedway Sunday night, November 21st, 9:15 p.m. Eastern on the Podium eSports Twitch channel. So you'll find that broadcast. And as always, you can follow Podium eSports on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitch at twitch.tv/Podium eSports before we are back on air next Monday night with the MX-5 Cup cars at Daytona. One more big thank you to our friends at Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages for their support of Monday Night Racing, their title partnership tonight of both the Road to Glory race and the Pro Series race. And if you want to find your next quality home mortgage today, log on to ashleighkirsch.com. Make sure you slide over to iRacing.com as well to start your own career, get a Black Friday discount, get your account renewed, get things going, have a good time, and maybe you too eventually could find yourself in Monday Night Racing. For everybody at Monday Night Racing, Ford Martin, Paul Sutton, Josh Mendoza, our team behind the scenes, Cisco Scaramuzza, Gary Sexton, John Theodore, everybody that was on the broadcast this evening, our pit reporter Terry Radford, my partner in the booth Kenneth Bueno, our special guests Daryl Walsham and Gil Martin, and a special shout out to our producer Ryan Power, who celebrates his birthday today. A very happy birthday to the man punching all the buttons, and hope that he's enjoyed this race as a nice birthday present as much as you all have wherever you might be watching. For all of us at Podium eSports, I am James Pike. Thank you so much for watching our broadcast of the Monday Night Racing Pro Series presented by Rowdy Energy. Congratulations to Kyle Busch, winner of the Ashleigh Kirsch Mortgages 150 at Michigan, and we look forward to seeing you next Monday night for the Mazda MX-5 Cup cars from the road course at Daytona.